Okay, now I can see the sound thing going up and down. So I think everybody in the world can hear me. Can you hear us, Sharky?
Hello, everyone.
Anyone? Hello, check.
Oh, check.
We scream into the void. Does the void scream back?
Watch Doc Void answer. I wish Doc Void was
That would be
here.
amazing. Cool. We're good.
Signal.
All right.
Yeah.
The void single.
Sorry about
just
that.
logged on.
I have this weird. It's interesting because one of the questions we have is like what technology we use. I have this weird hiccup with like the drivers on my camera, like just killing all my other audio, and I have to go in and like disable them when it happens. And I did that and right before we're going to go live. It like kicked everything off when I turned my camera on. I'm like, okay, it's okay. I'll go in and disable them. But for whatever reason, it screwed up our broadcast software, and nothing was like going out when it was supposed to.
Do you use your computer's camera, or do you have a separate camera?
No, so complex stuff. I use my computer's. You're seeing me on my computer's camera through the Zoom meeting.
Oh, that's right.
But the world is seeing me on the better high def camera, where I look better, or worse, depending, because it is high def. Yeah.
I was like, oh, so we get the shittier Christian.
You get the shittier Christian. You do, yeah. The low def Christian. So welcome, everyone.
We call it lo-fi. Lo-fi is cool. People,
you know, cool one, yeah.
Lo-fi Christian, which sounds like a terrible radio station.
It really does, doesn't it? I love you, Jesus.
With underneath some like jazz beats.
So welcome.
Christian rock is like pretty awesome. Christian rock is pretty great. Honestly, I love Christian rock.
Under Oath is a Christian metal band, and I rocked them for a decade. So
yeah.
I will not comment.
Okay, that's fair.
So
all right, hi everyone.
Welcome everyone to our first official ever just live Q&A stream. We have a lot of people out of town or otherwise unavailable tonight. So instead of doing a one shot or a game, because it's weird and hard, sometimes the room it's just a couple people a game. So we decided to do something we've never done really, which is just do a live Q&A, let people just ask their questions here. Thank you, Doc Void, 26 months. Jeez, man, you must really like us. Yeah. So,
and he answered the void signal.
He did. He answered. I called into the void and the void subscribed. I need to keep doing this. Yeah.
Wow. 26 months. That means we've been here at least 26 months.
Do you know that? So September, it'll be 3 years, Jess.
Actually, you know what's crazy? You can only subscribe once we hit affiliate, meaning Doc Void's probably been here since the beginning. Like that's probably he's our counter.
Oh, okay.
Doc, the OG.
Okay. Thank you. Thank
you, Doc.
3 years.
September. 3 years.
September. And actually, technically, our first stream was, I think, the end of August. But the recordings went up in September. Yep. So we are closing in on 3 years as a channel.
Wait,
that's crazy.
But that means we've had like 3 Christmas games, right? And I can only think of 2. I can think of Rainy's Time Jump one.
We did the Time Jump one and Twas, and then Crossroads Carnival had a Christmas episode.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was. I was like, we haven't done 3 Christmas episodes. How could it be 3? That's my counter for how many years we've been doing this.
But Twas is actually like probably one of my favorite one.
Oh,
so good. So good.
It's so fun because I hate that one so much.
Do you? Why?
I do. I hate it so much.
One joke because of my one.
No. It wasn't. That one was just so hard, I think, to run, and there was also like outside stuff happening, so that was also hard. So like that was a rough one. But I'm glad people liked it. It's just that one was hard.
So
I know this is a Q&A for everybody else to say it, but like now that we're just talking about our stuff, it's funny that you say the time hopping, like the Thursday Christmas edition that we did with like the Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
That's kind of like kickstarted my idea to do like a time loop, time travel game. And like it spurred me getting way
It's hard.
Cool. It's
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've tried to do it before and it's hard.
Yeah. So many variables. But so anyway, yeah, we're going to do a Q&A stream. We've got some questions that people emailed in. We're going to endeavor to answer them. We have people who aren't here who were kind enough of the DMs to write their answers. So we're going to read them on live here online and answer those questions. And if you have questions in chat, just drop them to us and we'll answer them. But before that, I think there's two things we need to talk about. One is, some of you must know us from RuneQuest, so I might possibly be preaching to the choir here, but Chaosium has like an amazing Humble Bundle up right now of RuneQuest stuff, which is literally every book of the current edition minus the most recent one, which is the Cults of the Lunar Way, for $25. In PDF, obviously
18, but go and
give the $25 to the kids in school so they can get computer science programs. Like, don't.
That's what I was gonna say. And always, whenever you do a Humble Bundle, always adjust your donation to max to charity every time.
Yeah. Yes.
Like you can go in and there's a slider, so you can always just max.
Oh gosh.
Rainey and I know this very well.
Yeah, we've done it
so many. Yeah.
Because we've done it so many times. But anyway, it is an insanely good introduction to RuneQuest. So if you happen to be, maybe you found us and you've been listening to some of the RuneQuest stuff we played and you're like, hey, this end game sounds pretty cool, but I haven't jumped into it yet. This is a perfect opportunity to, so jump on that while it lasts. Chaosium probably will do it again in the future, though, if you're listening to us like later on in time. 15 pounds in real money, says Sharky. Freaking British people. Just for that, I'm going to put marmalade on another scone.
Yeah.
we should do that on stream. We should just like all get stones, just eat them.
Just butter
our next mukbang.
Christian, you should in your next RuneQuest thing, there should be a culture where that is breakfast.
That's breakfast.
Oh yeah,
scones
we should
and
write that into a book. That would be great too.
Canon lore.
So that's one thing. Get the bundle if you want. The second thing is more of an announcement for stream stuff. You might have noticed last couple of weeks, Kent hasn't been here. Kent has changed employment, which makes it impossible for him to get here on Friday nights. So we don't want to play without Kent. So we're going to be making a change, and we're going to be making a move to now every other Saturday night instead going forward until such a time as we change things back. So if that is right, then that would mean the 27th would be our next stream rather than the 26th. It'll be Saturday night, same time, same bat station. Sunday for all you people. Yeah.
So, and another thing, just with that, I might, as the audio person editing these, if you guys are going to be doing them Saturdays, I might try and change the release schedule from Fridays, so that way it's not like Saturday stream, next Friday is the release. I might try and turn them around faster. I'm going to try and do like Monday or Tuesday drop. So like,
don't pressure yourself to do that, but that'd be cool if you could. But don't pressure yourself to do it. Yeah,
we'll see how the schedule works out and stuff. But that way, it's just
something. Honestly, like since we're all giving peeks behind the scenes here, something that's not said and talked about often is enough, really, by all of us. Is that like we wouldn't be able to do the shit we do without Rainey. Like Rainey has had to unfortunately not play with us as much in the longer form games because he has life and a little toddler, and so he's moved. He has his very successful, and I'm very proud of Rainey Runs RPGs podcast where he's doing some solo stuff, which is awesome. And love that that's working out great for you, dude. But also, like, Rainey does all the audio stuff for us and all that stuff. And like when you get a podcast, it's because Rainey did it. And this overlay you're looking at right now with the colors, like Rainey did that. And there's a way, like Rainey and I are the ones who do the graphics. So we were joking about this right before I went on screen. So this is how you know who made the graphics for whatever show we're watching. If it's colorful and it's vibrant and it's happy, Rainey made it. If it's like dour and in black and white and depressing, Christian made it. So that's how you know.
You take the time to put a lot more details in yours though that are like nice Easter eggs, and I'm just like splash.
Yeah. Well, the most one I'm probably most proud of. Well, actually, the RuneQuest one was good, but the Invisible Sun one actually had the entire Wasteland poem by T.S. Eliot in the script from the world, like written and just like faded down to like it was barely visible in the background.
That's really awesome.
I'm just a nerd. Yeah.
And I think for RuneQuest, I think you wrote all of our names in the runes, right? Like,
all the names are in runes.
Yeah, that's right.
In RuneQuest, yeah.
That's right.
And then also like across the bottom was Glory to the Harrowborn.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, we got a question in chat. Will I be joining the Harrowborn tribe again? Mayhaps, maybe not full time, but I'll try and like come around for bits and pieces if I can. You know, I'm bummed I never got to play Ven, hashtag not a goth. And I'd like to. But yeah, it's as everything started up and we transitioned to longer form games and everything like that. It was just like that's when Owen really hit like mobile. Owen being my son, by the way, really hit like mobile toddler status. And like right now, he's still awake. I can hear him. I don't know if you guys can hear him kicking against this wall.
Can't hear him.
No. Right against this wall. He's just kicking. So, but so it's just one of those things where like he's still not even asleep right now. It just makes streaming a little more difficult when I got to get on by 6:45, 7, and he's not even asleep.
Yeah, we play late. Yeah,
it's totally understandable, and you'll come back when you do.
Yeah. I promised I'd be around for Vaesen, one of the mysteries. So at this point, there's
only one left.
There's only one left. But also too, like, bear in mind, also I will go on and say this too, like, you don't necessarily have to come back and play Ven. You can just pop in for one thing, and like we can create somebody maybe also that kind of pops in and out if you want to do that when you feel like it.
Totally. Yeah, because that would be cool. Yeah. If I don't know if you said what campaign you're running yet, but if there's a
Company of the Dragon,
if there's a good reason for a certain NPC or something like that to be around.
There's a lot more wiggle room for Company of the Dragon because it's a bigger campaign.
Yeah,
but
6 seasons is very limited.
Yeah, because 6 seasons like you're in a valley. Yeah, Company of Dragons like, what do you want to do? Oh yeah, Hulk Hogan will definitely be back. Sharky, depressed shaman Hulk Hogan will absolutely return. That was one of my favorite characters I ever made. Yeah,
so great.
Yep. So let's start. I think like we have general questions and we have RuneQuest questions. Do you want to do the general questions first, and then like go? So Dustin has wrote us some like a lot of really great questions. But anyway, again, anyone in chat like pop in as we answer these. But what do you want to do? Do you want to just like read them and then each answer them as we go? Why don't we do that one at a time?
Sure.
Do you want to do that? Do you want to read the first one, Rainey?
All right. So the first one's very specific to like just audio quality. So again, as we've been doing this for, as we were saying earlier, almost 3 years, we decided like we started with like, computer mics and whatever, and we've upgraded over time, and whatnot. So the question is what recording equipment, microphone, and camera do each of you use, and what software and editing tools are used when uploading after Twitch? So I'll start as I do the editing and stuff. So my microphone is a Shure, I want to say, oh gosh, I don't remember what it's called, AX87 or something like that. It's like a Shure podcasting microphone. It's XLR and whatnot. I go, and because I'm a musician and I decided if I'm going to do this, I'm going to get nice equipment so I can record. I have a Scarlett 2i something, but basically like 8-channel audio interface.
It's awesome.
And then I just use my Mac's computer, but I have like a DSLR camera that I mean to hook up to it and make myself look really nice, but I don't. And then editing, I am still editing in the free Audacity. I've just gotten used to it. I have my templates saved. So it usually goes pretty quick at this point, although I've been really, really itching to upgrade to like a Logic or something like that.
So I have a quick question. I'm just going to answer for Sharky because chat's kind of scrolling by. Sharky says, wondering if you use minis in your home games before DMs After Dark. Yes, and for the vast majority of my playing career, no. Not at all. I was just theater of the mind. That was me. I have minis now because my son is like obsessed with them, but he more plays with them with his friends, and I occasionally go and look at them and think they're cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Or Jess. Go ahead. Either one. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, so I learned RPGs with minis and we played with them for years. I don't think it was actually until DMs After Dark that our home group transitioned to Theater of the Mind. And we just started going back to minis, which is fun. It's been a been a good like throwback to our old strategy skills, which has been nice. But yeah, we play a lot with minis.
Yep. With my home group, and this is sad. So I don't know if all of you saw that I have my little homemade foam board 3x3 tiles. Shout out Black Magic Craft for all of those.
Awesome.
And also RP Archive on YouTube has the best tutorials. RP Archive is incredible. But I loved using minis in my D&D campaigns, Pathfinder and stuff like that. Now I don't really run games that need minis. Like that's really not my vibe anymore. But I've backed like 2 Reaper mini Kickstarters. I have like hundreds of minis in this closet behind me that are unpainted. Please come shame me forever, everybody.
No, I think that's a lot of people. A lot of people have minis that are
piles of shame. Yeah, do you see this?
Oh, there you go.
The funny thing is, I am like familiar with the pile of shame because although I don't necessarily have used minis in RPG games, I have war games like BattleTech and Blood and Plunder that I like painting minis. They're just those are the ones that I like speak to me. So those are the ones I paint, and I indeed have large piles of shame.
Shout out though, Christian has gotten so good at painting minis.
It's fun watching your progress.
I've gotten better. Yeah, I sucked so bad when I started, but thank you, Jess. That's
So Christian for Christmas had gotten me like an elk. It's supposed to be Ort. Yeah, an elk miniature that he painted, and it looks so good. It looks so good. I'll get it later.
Oh, Rainy, hold on. What is this? There's a question for you. Hold on.
Yeah, Masks game on the DMs After Dark.
Dude, I hope so, because superheroes is something we haven't done, and I love superheroes so much.
We haven't done superheroes.
Yeah, we've never done superheroes. And
it's coming. It's like it's funny because I was just thinking because my son like begged me to run a Mutants and Masterminds campaign for him and his friends over the summer, and so we're just starting to make like the characters, and I forgot like I'm loving like the superhero genre again, but also just like the game Mutants and Masterminds I love so much. It's such a great system. I know I've talked about it a lot, but I'm like, oh man, this is like I love this so much. All right, so I use a so when we started streaming, I think I'll go back to this. So if you're out there and you're wondering about how to start, we started with a Yeti microphone, a Zoom meeting, and OBS, which is the broadcast software we use which is free to broadcast. We still use that. And I literally just let my Zoom audio flowed through my computer speakers, and the Yeti mic picked it up to send it out to the world, and it worked fine for a long time. Which is actually what happened last stream because I gave the mic to Jess because I wasn't there. So that's like a roving mic. But now I use a Elgato Wave 3. That's what this is. Microphone. I like it because it comes with like some bundled software that makes it easier to run the stream. Audio software. And I also use a Razer Kio camera, which is what gives me problems with my audio because it has stupid fucking drivers that keep kicking out the rest of my audio, but it's otherwise a good camera. So that's what we use. And literally we just started streaming off my like Dell laptop, which was fine. Now I use a gaming laptop, but that's just because I have it to game, and I figured I might as well use it for this too. We've never had a problem with the other one. So that's what we use.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I used to stream before this. Don't ever look up my other stream, but
everybody find it.
Yeah, do not find it. But the streamer that I used to stream with before, he was the one who ran everything, and so I just got whatever mic he told me, and it's this Samson mic thing, yeah. Okay. And I don't actually even know. I got this from Amazon. I don't know what kind of headphone it is, but
that's wait. Turn your head again.
Kraken, maybe.
Yeah, those are good.
I think it's a Kraken.
Those are good.
Yeah,
those are good. Yeah.
And so that's what I use for my camera. Funny enough, I used to have like an HD camera, but because I have like this white background, you could see like the waves of it kind of move through. So I gave it to Amber, who now uses it, and you can see the waves on her. So that used to be mine, and that's what I used to use. But now I use my work computer, which I probably shouldn't, but I use whatever camera is on this laptop. Yeah, and that's what I use.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think Troy has a Yeti still, I think, right?
Yeah, he's got a Yeti, and I forget what camera he's got.
Yeah.
And I know Amber has, I think, a Razer headset.
I was going to say she uses
Yes, Amber has a Razer. I think she also has a Yeti microphone. Although she uses it. Oh, she did have a Yeti.
That was mine. She kept it I'll just let her keep it for a long time.
Oh,
that was
okay.
the
But
Yeti.
now she just uses it through the
I let her
razor.
keep it so long, I actually forgot about it. And she's like, I have your Yeti. And I thought she was talking about like the cooler. And I was like, I've never
I've
owned
never
a Yeti.
had a Yeti.
Like, I don't have a Yeti. I've never owned a Yeti cooler. And she's like, no, I
Sounds
have
about
your
right.
Yeti. And then I was like, okay, I'll come get it. And there was like the microphone. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Oh, right. I
Gotcha.
actually have mine right behind my computer right here, which my wife was using it for a while, but because it's omnidirectional, if the both of us were on like a single call, it was so much crazy feedback.
That's the thing. It's because it's omnidirectional. It picks everything up. And I do not stream in a very conducive area to getting good audio. I'm in a very, like, my downstairs bar is like very hard surfaces. And echoey. And so it's a miracle that the sound we get, even though I screw it up a lot, is still worthwhile.
Nah, totally fine.
For a while, I was talking to Rainey about like building like this little like curtain thing around me, like a little tent, like hiding out in it.
It's funny if you start going down the rabbit hole of like, how do I get my audio to sound good? It's like record in a pillow fort. It's legitimately the answer. It's like, well, next question is a big one. This is an interesting one. Everyone has contributed a lot to the success of our stream, but Dustin says, I'm sure you all have moments that stick around for a while. What's a moment on stream that a colleague, GM, or player has done that blew your mind or wowed you? And while you guys think about your favorite, like, oh my gosh moment, I can read Troy's answer to buy you guys some time.
Okay, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, please do.
So Troy answered this one and said that Rainey's handwritten letter to Windrith in Good Society was incredible. I actually mailed him a letter.
I remember you did that. It was awesome. Yeah.
I mailed him a letter, made him open it on stream. It's also the first time I ever had a player romance in any TTRPG. So Troy introduced me to RPGs, and I was the first person to romance Troy in an RPG. So that seems right. And then it says, Bluebeard's Bride was obviously excellent. Troy says that'll stick with him for sure. And in his home Shadows of Esteren game, he's actually experienced moments where he and the players have openly wept, and it was incredibly powerful. So, Jess, you can give us the hot goss on that if you want, but you don't have to.
Here's the thing with all these questions. My memory is so terrible. When I was looking at RuneQuest questions, I was like, oh man, RuneQuest was so recent and yet so far away. But for Esteren, so there have been a couple moments that have been really powerful with Troy that have been very close to tears or have brought me to tears. And I don't know which one in particular that Troy is talking about. I remember all of us crying, but I don't remember exactly what happened. But for me in particular, in his Esteren game, there's a PC that we play with, and her NPC mother was very sick. And the moment that she passed away, the way that Troy had described it and everything that was just going on very cinematically, we were in the middle of like this snowstorm, and the cry that the PC that had like put out just like echoed throughout the forest. It was really beautiful. And I cried. That was really hard. We just loved her so much. And that was a hard one. I don't think that's the moment Troy's talking about, but yeah, he's had a couple of moments in that game. Yeah. Esteren's a hard one. That'll destroy you.
It is. I've not played it. I don't play in the campaign, but I played it. Yeah. I don't know if it's just Troy or if it's the game, but
it's both. It's for sure.
Because I've never played it without Troy, but
it's for sure both. Troy's really good at building tension as a GM. Yeah. He's great at building tension, and he does a great job with that.
He's very good at like figurative language, descriptive language.
Yes.
Like, some of the stuff
they both are the Blisses.
The stuff that they can like just spitball off the top of their head is like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, so that was going to be my answer was maybe I'm a little bit biased because Amber's my best friend, but like just sometimes when she has just her like narrative parts of her GMing, when she just like paints a scene or like a closing scene, it's just so beautiful. She's just such a craftsman with words. Like it's that always blows me away. And when she takes those like minutes to kind of just describe that, I'm just like sitting here in awe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've talked about this a lot. And Rainey always impresses me as a GM because like I like people will do ridiculous things in Rainey's game, and that's also because he's kind of like a little bit of a wacky GM. But somehow Rainey always like full circles his games, and I just don't know how he does it.
Yeah.
Like I just don't know how he remembers all of these threads and brings it all together at the end. And I'm just like, what? What? And it's just incredible.
I can't live without a nice, neatly wrapped bow at the end.
Yeah, and
it's always like it's funny because like I always love when we do the funny thing is when we do the one shots, honestly, like I always have the most anxiety when we do the one shots because you have to wrap everything up in one session, right? And I'm always like, oh my God, is it going to be good? And those games, a lot of times, are not rules heavy. They're also like, they're very, like we just make stuff up and we go. And I'm always like, well, what if it falls flat? And I'm always like, my anxiety is always eased when Rainey is playing because I'm like, oh, he'll figure something out.
Yeah.
Just let him.
I think, I do pride myself on being like, okay, like, I don't care how crazy we're going to get. I kind of like, in my brain, there's a box that we are staying within no matter how out of left field something goes. It's got to bounce around somewhere. And
the funny thing too is like if you just roll with everything, I found this too, like the opportunities to tie everything back together just show up.
Yeah, if you don't try and pull away on it, right? Like if you're not trying to pull it back to something reasonable, like honestly, like you can get crazy, but
like I don't get it, Rainey, because it's not even the main plot. Like you pull in like things that people like players bring in, and you pull it into like the end somehow into the main plot. And I'm just like, I remember the first time I ever played with you, I was like, this is the most brilliant thing I've ever seen in my life. And then you did it again, and I was like,
there were two quick questions here. One was for you, Jess. It was about honor and intrigue. The grandma, we were just talking about how we can't remember her name off screen. The grandma, was she originally meant to be an antagonist?
Oh yeah, 100%. So for honor and intrigue, I was talking about this a little bit mid or like before stream, but like I panicked halfway through honor and intrigue because like I had like my plot line in mind, and then halfway through like the second episode I hated what I had in mind. Like the grandma was like for sure evil, but I also had set up her daughter or her granddaughter to kind of just be like a sacrificial lamb, and I hated it so much, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do, and then I don't actually even remember what I did do with it. But the grandma was for sure evil. Yeah,
I got the name. I was going to say the second question, Marissa. Yeah,
Marissa. The second question was for all of us, and then I'll answer this one first, so you guys can think of your answers, and then I'll answer like the main question about moments on stream. But it was, what do you have a favorite system to run? So yeah, I do. And it's not like you might think it's like RuneQuest or Call of Cthulhu. It's not. It's actually Mutants and Masterminds. And the reason I love it is because it's like RuneQuest is a great system for what it does. Same thing with Call of Cthulhu. It captures horror well. And Mutants and Masterminds like nailed superheroes as far as I'm concerned. And once you know like a couple little levers to pull to run the game, even though it looks very complex on the surface, it's not. You just pull those levers and you're off and running. And there's really like room for anything your players come up with to like we had a game once when we wound up wrapping a guy up in a bulldozer, these are superheroes. They can obviously do things like this. They beat a guy by wrapping him up in a bulldozer like he was like a cocktail weenie. And he like couldn't get out, so it's like I have a lot of good memories, I think, of playing that game with my son when he was very little, so that might be what shades it, but it's also a really easy game to play. You'll find that out soon, Doc Boy, because he's been asking questions. So
I have access to the email. I love going, like, I'll just like, oh, I got an email, it's about Mutants and Masterminds, and every once in a while I'll just like peruse your conversation and be like, they're getting into it, they're getting real into it.
I'm so happy with that. Misfire is going to live again in another campaign. So
right,
yeah. Everybody has contributed a lot to the success of the show, but I'm sure you all have moments to stick around for a while. So it's interesting. So the one, Bluebeard's Bride was one that absolutely was like an experience for me when we played that game. And so I think if anything, I wouldn't call it my favorite game we ever played on stream necessarily.
I know
but I would call it the most powerful one, the one that had the impactful experience. So I think, Amber, everybody here is a wonderful GM, and like I'm happy to play with them everybody has their own styles, right? And they're all great. But I'm always, like you said, like I'm always kind of blown away with how she can create emotion in games in me. And that's like, it's hard to do to me. And like even in Vaesen, like Troy and I were talking about, we got that conversation because somebody asked Troy questions about like what makes a villain redeemable or not, and torture and things like that. And like I felt bad when Rosalie tortured that guy, and like I didn't feel bad when I was doing. I was in Rosalie, and Rosalie was just like mad at him. But when he died, I felt bad. Like afterwards, I was like, oh man, I feel kind of bad about this. Like Amber brought out the pathos and like this really like disgusting human being, and that's that's impressive. So she's impressed me a lot with stuff. Everybody is good, don't get me wrong, but Bluebeard's Bride's the one that probably sticks the most with me.
I've heard people say, even people who love Bluebeard's Bride, I don't think anyone would call it their favorite game because it's always just a gut punch. Like
Yeah.
I've heard people describe Bluebeard's game as a game that like you need to play, but you probably won't enjoy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and like it's valid, but like you know what I mean? Like that's not the intent of that game, right? Is to come out of it smiling, laughing about what you did. Like you shouldn't. If you did that, you played that game.
Yeah, you played it wrong. You didn't take it seriously.
And the thing is, that game is like Amber's obviously an amazing GM, and she did amazing GM with Bluebeard's Bride, and and perfect for it. But the game is also designed so well. Yeah. Like it's designed so well. It's very specific in what it's shooting for, and it does it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, going back to a couple of things here, the wowed me, the wowed me question, like what wowed me. I would say it wasn't even so much like any one thing we all did, but I think that Good Society just as a system blew my mind.
Yes.
Like it was something that like for me coming from a pretty like minis heavy, like I do a lot of high fantasy. I did like space fantasy, like Starfinder stuff.
Yeah.
And I love fantasy and I love sci-fi. And when Sarah was like, there's a Jane Austen RPG, I was like, I want to play this, thinking I'm going to go in and be like, that's fun. Somebody made that's cute, right? And then by the end of it, I was like, sold. Friggin' sold.
Yes.
Great Brewers for life.
Yeah, honestly, I actually think Good Society was probably our best game, like one, like series that we've done, like realistic, like it was like very moving. Everybody got like so deep into character, and I always use because Sarah is a great freeform GM. Like she'll show up and she just has a note. Like her notes were literally like, "Oh, there's a festival."
Yeah,
and
she's so good at
everything
rolling
that
with
we bought in with the horse, and Thomas being like, we're going to fix this horse race, and that became this whole like we had this completely convoluted, we had a spreadsheet to keep track of like who was in on the fact that the horse race was being fixed and why and everything, because we couldn't keep it. Became so convoluted, and it was not, that was, you couldn't have written that beforehand,
right?
There's no way you would have.
What came out of it like just organically, and because there was no mechanics to get in the way of that, and it's literally just like what I love about it too is like it's so good, like the monologue token.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful.
So yeah. I love the aspect of playing someone else's like secondary character.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
The whole system is just designed to be like you have a meta currency that is basically just push someone's buttons or like nudge their actions, right? Like the cool thing is they can always say no, but like just narratively, it just it gets out of its own way. It tells you to lean into all the silly.
And it's so simple. It's so simple, and it works so well. Like both the times that we played it, I just can't believe how it just unfolds.
There's another game coming up right now that I back like right away.
It's like the steampunk airship one, right?
Yes. No, it's like a longer form game, like Wuthering Heights sort of stuff, I think.
Yeah. And I still have this that I want to play.
Yeah, really I want to do it too. Fight with Spirit, definitely.
I saw you message about that one, and I was like, oh man, I'm busy.
So for fun fact, we're just going to say this right now. So Story Brewers put out another game in between Good Society and this other one, Castle in the Air, I think it's called. That they're putting
Castles in the Air. That's it. Yeah,
Castles in the Air. Called Fight with Spirit, and it's a sports drama RPG. It is kind of like imagine you're playing like Mighty Ducks or it's designed to be high school to college student ages, right? So like think like a lot of like that. Ducks, Haikyuu, the anime Haikyuu, the volleyball one.
Yeah.
It's all about that sports drama. You don't have to know anything about the sport you're playing. It's about the relationships of the players on the team, the people who are coming to watch you, the people on the other team that might be your rivals, and it's about like every point in the game doesn't matter for score. It's about what that point means between your characters, right? And I'm pretty confident in saying I think this will be the first like Rainy Plays Games DMs After Dark like crossover. It's just going on both feeds. We're just gonna like play it and put it out for podcast only because it's like card based. Like a lot of it is like you lay stuff out on a table and it's like
gotcha
prompts and stuff. So it'd be hard to do streaming. But
favorite game, real quick, because then we'll move on. Yeah.
Favorite game to run. This is a cop out, but I'm going to just say any Powered by the Apocalypse. Give me any Powered by the Apocalypse. I will run it.
That was obvious. We saw that one coming. I agree with that. Though. I love that game.
I was going to say mine's also a cop out. I'm just like a creature of habit. So like Pathfinder 1.
As you know it. So I love Pathfinder 1 though.
I love Pathfinder 1. Yeah. So that's what I would always
Let's do the next one, which is I like this question, and I'll go first on this one. We all love watching and listening to or reading content and use those inspirations in our games. With that in mind, what are two of your favorite fictional genres? Follow up, what book, movie, TV series, etc. do you recommend from your favorite genres? So I'll read Troy's first because Troy answered all these for us. Troy said, I don't read a ton of fiction, but I do love the Drizzt novels. So R.A. Salvador, Drizzt Do'Urden novels. These are my favorite of all time and have incredible impact in my life. I think I've got like 6 books left and I'm on timeless. He hung in there for them because I tapped out on Drizzt, but good for him.
I did like 7 or 8 books, I think.
Yeah.
I own them. I just haven't, like, with my back pile of books, I'm not like, let me jump back into the Drizzt.
For me, for genres, I'm going to say one thing, like something that I love and I've gotten out of reading for a little bit, and then I've gotten back into reading some of my back issues on Comixology's comics. And one of the reasons I love comics is because, like, I love stories and I love all different sorts of genres like science fiction and fantasy and everything. But comics are the only thing where I'll be an example. My favorite superhero team of all time, the Defenders, is an irradiated scientist, Bruce Banner the Hulk, a wizard, Doctor Strange, a space surfer, the Silver Surfer, who's an alien with a surfboard, and Namor the Submariner, right? Like the Prince of Atlantis, some fish guy, right? Only in comics will something ridiculously stupid like that work.
Yeah.
And that is what I love about them, because they'll have these like things that you're like, that's so stupid. I'll never, why would again, also some of my favorite characters, Swamp Thing and John Constantine, right? Why would a living plant be friends with a cigarette smoking, chain smoking, sarcastic English wizard? But they work so fucking well, right? Yeah. And so I love that, because I always want to see, like, it's a place where people go to like play with genre. And sometimes it works phenomenally. Sometimes it sucks really bad, but it's always fun for me. And I also say, as a GM, I will give this advice to just people. Like, if you want to learn storytelling from a GM standpoint, pick something you think you would be interested in as a comic and read it for a year, because the episodic nature of the comic is very similar to the episodic nature of the sessions you'll be running as a GM. And think about that. The comic writers have to sell you to buy the next issue. So you always get that splash page, and it's like, the bad guy's there, and he's like, oh my God, that's going to be what the next issue is. Learn to do that stuff in your games. You'll get your players to show up next week, and that's how you thread things in. But you also there's also narrative stuff and people have asked me this on actually, as a matter of fact, where, and I'll give you, this is where it came from. At the end of 6 seasons in Sartar, I'm going to give some spoilers here. After you drowned everyone, right? I just ran the scene where Ashigara brought King Kanghal back to life. Yeah. And someone emailed me and they're like, well, why did you know, I understand why you would have that happen, but why did you let the players know about that? Because I'm like, well, because player knowledge is different than character knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that's fun, right? My most fun things in reading is I always want to read the scenes in movies where you see what the bad guys are doing, or the scenes in comics where you see what the bad guys plotting, and the players and the characters don't know about that yet. And that's something you don't get in RPGs unless you make it happen. Mm-hmm. And you guys are all good enough players where I can give you that stuff and you're not going to metagame. So that's where it came from. So comics is something. Also, I read a lot of I read fantasy, but I also read a lot of historical fiction, which I think history is very good for history is stranger than fiction is the saying. And so you will get some like stupid good ideas just reading like real history, particularly for your world building. Yeah. And steal those ideas like for your world building and things like that. You will get some ridiculously stupid great ideas, and these are things that really happened. So nobody at your table is ever gonna be like, that's so unrealistic, because you could be like, you know what, the Ottoman Turks did it in 1452, so fuck you. And so history is great too. If I would say a comic book that my favorite of all time is Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. Like his run as Swamp Thing is some of the best comics I've ever read. And like, look, listen, we all know like the comic is like the hero's going to win and stuff. Alan Moore is the only writer in comics that's ever been able to like make me like upset and like afraid of what the outcome's going to be on storylines. And so like they're great comics. As far as like a just general novel, I'll recommend it again for RuneQuest people. The Bull from the Sea and the King Must Die by Mary Renault, I think. Who she wrote historical fiction, and what those are the historical fiction stories of the guy who fought the Minotaur.
Oh, Perseus?
Perseus, thank you. Mm-hmm. Perseus and the Minotaur. Yeah. Yep. So check those books out. That'll put you in like a RuneQuest frame of reference.
Real quick. Oh, Theseus.
No. Theseus, thank you. Yeah, Theseus. Yeah, Theseus. Yeah.
Okay.
Theseus.
I know it was an
Theseus. Yeah.
Real quick, we got a really great question from WCXX Ghost. So we'll get to that after we finish this one. We'll toss that one.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
I read a lot of books. My wife and I binge a lot of TV. I'm on 51. I just started my 51st book of 2024 yesterday.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
And I've only given out 3 5-star reads this year. And one of them, if you guys listen to my podcast, the baby podcast, the DM's first baby podcast, Rainy Plays Games, I have a series called Mining Media. I like fantasy. I like sci-fi. I'm trying to read something else like in between each of those kind of as I do it. But one of my 5-star reads this year, and actually all 3 books of this trilogy got 5 stars for me, so I'll just do this. No one would be surprised by this because I love fantasy, but if you've watched any of my stuff, you know that I love Mafia. I throw the Mafia into everything I do. It's terrible.
Great. It's amazing.
Yeah. And there is a book series, a book trilogy called The Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee, and it is relatively modern fantasy, like urban fantasy. It's like 1970. It takes place over like what's effectively technologically the 1970s to like the 1990s, and it follows a family that is one of the 2 ruling clans of a small nation that has access to a special kind of jade that gives the natives of that island somewhat superpowers. But it's also dangerous. Like if you use too much of it, you will overdose and die and go crazy and bad things happen. But they are effectively a shadow government within their country. They really run a lot of stuff, and the government is kind of pseudo whatever. So it's like mafia based. So I would recommend that, and just as content that I've been reading a lot. I would say fantasy, sci-fi are my big ones. And also nature stuff, but that really isn't anything that I read a lot of obviously environmental books. What book, movie, TV series do you recommend for your favorite genres? I will obviously say Greenbone Saga. I will also say for the time loop shenanigans of confusingness, watch Dark on Netflix. It's a German TV show.
See that.
Bro,
I've been wanting to watch Dark. Yeah.
It is honestly one of the best TV shows I've ever watched. I want to rewatch it again so bad. I've already watched it twice, and I want to watch it again. It's that good.
Wow. Okay, I'm watching it then based on that recommendation. Yeah.
Putting it on my list now.
So yeah, and then Jess, answer this, and then we'll do WCXX.
Mine should be short. I have no recommendations. I don't really read that much anymore. I used to read a lot of fantasy YA. I mostly watch a lot of trash teen dramas.
Let's go. Honestly, though, underrated for mining for RPGs because, I
agree. There's a lot of inspiration there.
The stakes are always exaggerated because of the characters, but at the same time, that drama is what ramps up inter-party, like, you know what I mean, like the PCs. Like, let them get that dramatic, because like good stuff comes out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What I will drop though is Amber's favorite book series right now is the Locked Tomb series,
Yeah.
which we've all read here. So yes. What is the first one? Gideon the Ninth? Yeah, that is
Gideon the Ninth. Yep.
Her favorite book series. So I will drop that from her as a recommendation.
Yeah, definitely check that out. It's a great series. Yeah. Funny as hell too.
It is. It's both funny and traumatizing.
Yeah, true. Let's do the Ghosts question, and then we'll move on. Yeah.
So that question was, Ghost mostly plays D&D, 2nd edition through 5th edition, and
God bless him, 2nd edition. Okay.
Yeah, and White Wolf, the old world stuff. So,
okay.
Vampire the Requiem, right?
Yeah, Werewolf Apocalypse, Vampire Requiem. Yeah.
So, any recommendations for remote play?
Remote play? Oh, like playing on Zoom and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason you really can't play any of those games on remote, but it's just a change in mindset. Like my Wednesday night home game is D&D 5e. We play it all remote. We were using VTT for a while, Foundry we were using for a while, but we even stopped doing that with tokens, and we just like theater in the mind it because it was just easier, and we had some tech issues with the DM's laptop. But I would say if you wanted something rules light to start playing remote, I ran a Fate game that went really well remote. Fate's a really easy system to learn, and you can make it into anything you wanted. So you could, even if you wanted to, it wouldn't be hard to make a World of Darkness Fate game at all. You would just keep the lore and move it in, or you could do anything with Fate realistically. The problem is also that sometimes Fate just feels like you're playing Fate and not like what you wanted to play. But to start, if you wanted to get used to like that theater of the mind, that might not be a bad recommendation.
Fate is in my opinion, one of the best onboarders to narrative plays versus like that traditional style.
Because I think like Powered by the Apocalypse games are awesome, but I almost think they're like not enough. Like to have like, because if you're coming from something that's crunchy and you're going to something that's like not crunchy, you need something in the middle.
As much as I love PBTA games, I would almost say they're not the best first games to introduce people to, because it's almost too open. It's like the opposite of analysis paralysis, with like looking at a D&D sheet and being like, what is my best like mathematical option? And then PBTA is like the far other side of that pendulum, which is like, what if I don't pick the most narratively interesting option? And it's like, you don't have to, but like I can see how that's a little stressful,
So for me personally, I think if you're playing with newer players, I actually really like having minis and a board. I think it relieves a lot of pressure for new players to be like looking at people, right? It gives them something to look at, and they see like the pieces move and things like that.
I agree. That's a great point, because I also think it's, if you've never played an RPG before and you're like, why the fuck are these people sitting around talking to each other in funny voices? Having a mini and a board still has that like board game feel that some people at least feel comfortable in that space.
I think if you have more, I was just going to say, if you have more experienced players, then I think that's a great opportunity.
So Ghost just said they're doing 5e over Discord, and they're using D&D Beyond. But again, like Fate has a whole website of stuff that you can. I wouldn't say it's as like. Actually, it is. It's indexable and searchable. I remember it now. Similar to D&D Beyond. I mean, it's not D&D Beyond, let's be honest, but there's stuff on there, so it's pretty good, and all the stuff is free pretty much online.
I love
Fate.org is this website.
I love Roll20. That has just been a lifesaver over COVID, and because like all of my games were pretty much remote over COVID, so Roll20.
I just switched to Foundry, and the quality of life is so much better than
really. That's the only one I know, to be fair. I only know Roll20.
I was paying like a lot of money.
Oh, you did the high-end one?
And then I switched to Foundry, and I was like, why are all these like just basic functions that are so much better than everything I'm doing? But real quick, going back to Ghost's question, if you and your friends who are used to trad games like D&D 2 through 5 and White Wolf games, let me pitch to you Free League. Can I please pitch to you everything Free League? Dragonbane. Like technically Mork Borg isn't Free League, but it is. Like if you love that like grim fantasy stuff, or like because White Wolf can get kind of dark, Mork Borg is rules light and brutal. And you do not need a map for that. You can play that remotely and just be chaos. You know what I mean? Like nuts. And they also have like
Dragon Bait is more of like a traditional D&D feel.
Yeah. And if you want to branch out, I've heard incredibly good things about Alien and Blade Runner, even though
I've read
like
Alien, and Alien looks amazing. Yeah.
Even though they're IP games, they're done like stupid well, like really well. Oh, and
hard to do.
I'm so sorry. I want to go back to something real quick where Christian was saying in his Mutants and Masterminds thing about he loves doing scenes of like BBEGs or like, you know, away from the characters, giving you like behind the scenes, like just a scene to be like, it's what's happening narratively. As like you guys are dealing with something, other things are obviously happening in the world. Two games that do this that I love that like designers are starting to think about this and like literally mechanize it is one is I was just talking to Matt Risby, Bad Spot, and he mentioned The Between. He's been running it, and there is a whole part of that game where towards the end of it, you're supposed to start a scene that has like the bad guy towards the end. Because if you think about framing a session, an episode, towards that like last third, you are playing out a scene with the bad guy, and like as your characters are doing their thing, if you can narratively describe something that like ties into what's happening in that scene, so there's like theme overlaps and stuff, you get bonuses, which is really cool. And it also gives player knowledge, and the players can then like weave details about their characters into it that makes it more impactful for them. And then also Fabula Ultima is it's
a new one.
TTJRPG. So for all of us 80s, 90s kids who grew up playing Final Fantasies and Chrono Triggers and all of those, it is a tabletop Japanese role-playing game. It's designed to replicate the JRPG experience for like Super Nintendo, PlayStation 1, 2 era. And that game literally has a mechanic that says, players get Fabula tokens and the GM gets Ultima tokens, and the GM gets to use Ultima tokens to do villain scenes.
Oh, cool.
As the PCs are doing things, the GM goes, I'm spending an Ultima token, and the villain is doing something awful that you guys now have to deal with. And and it's based on the actions you've been taking.
That's cool. That's cool.
Awesome.
It's really cool.
That's awesome. All right, what's the next one, Rainy? Moving on. That's what I'm saying. Kind of like figure we'll move quickly here.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go fast.
Time and money was an issue. Was one TPG you'd want to run on stream, want to stream on Twitch, and one game you want to play off stream? I'll do this one first.
Wait,
I'll read Troy's first. Troy 1000% wants to do a Blades in the Dark game on stream. Absolutely. We need to do that. As far as off stream, I do another Good Society game. And he wants to do Chair. Chair is a very probably obscure game. Yeah, it's a lyric game where you sit in a chair and eventually smash it because you're not comfortable.
Shout out Adira Slattery.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Troy, Blades in the Dark. Actually, that'd be the one I want to stream with Troy because I need to bring back Temple. The world needs to see Temple and Ronnie.
That whole crew was so good, and I want to know what Jess would bring in. So bad.
Yeah. What game do I want to play off stream though? That's an interesting one. Troy backed Tainted Grail by Studio Agate, who's the same people who made Shadows of Estrin. And Tainted Grail is like Gothic Arthurian legends, basically. And use the same system as Shadows of Estrin, I'm pretty sure. And I told him that if he doesn't invite me to that game, I'm not going to be his friend anymore. So, that's the one I want to play off.
Leaning into the guilt heavy.
My name is Christian. This is what I do. I give guilt to people.
Fair.
Good answer. That's amazing. I'll go next if you guys want.
Sure.
I would love to run. I would love to continue running the Blades game we ran before we started streaming.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, I'm going to cop out a little bit on this one. Actually, you know what? I would say, I'm going to cop out a little bit on this one and say that a game I'd love to run on stream and a game I'd love to run off stream, they're from the same family, but for very different reasons. I would like to run one on stream versus off. I'd love to run Mouse Guard on stream. I love Mouse Guard. It sounds cutesy, but also you're tiny little mice and life is incredibly dangerous for you. But it uses the Burning Wheels system, basically. It's a big old D6 pool kind of thing. But it's like Burning Wheel light, kind of. And my answer for a game I would love to play off stream, but it's kind of at this point in my RPG loving career-ish, whatever you want to call it, it's kind of antithetical to like how I really do play. Burning Wheel, I would love to run a campaign of, but
I would totally play that. Honestly, I love I have the Burning Wheel books too. They're so awesome, but it's just like
that's not a game you play for 5 sessions or even 10 sessions. That's a game you play for years. Like that is a game you have to dedicate a lot of time to, because it's not a game like people will often say like D&D, like you like Lord of the Rings? No. Lord of the Rings is a sprawling epic that takes place over decades. Like D&D does not capture that. Like it would be really hard for a GM to use D&D or any of these high fantasy RPGs to run Lord of the Rings, because it's also not like a level 1 to level 20 progression, right? A Burning Wheel will do that. It will run that insanely epic, lifelong kind of sprawling tale. But you got to be into that. You got to be committed to that. Yeah, so that's my answer.
Oh man. I don't think I have much for this either. This is my bad memory too. There's not really a game that I would want to bring back that I can think of for long term. A game that I would want to bring back, we already talked about it, Good Society. I would love to play that again. I think that it was just so great. And we've played it twice now. I think once on stream and once off stream, and they've both been amazing. And there isn't a game that I think I'd want to play off stream that I wouldn't want to stream, I think, at this point, just because most of the time I feel like we just do whatever. So I can't really think of a game that I'd want to do off stream exclusively. There is a game, 10 Candles, I would love to see us do someday.
Oh, yeah.
10 Candles is just so much fun. And
that probably
I think that one would be really cool. No, no.
Also, I got an answer for Christian for a game that he'd probably want to play but not stream, and that is Orkfuck.
Yes. I'll stream it.
I'll stream it.
Yeah.
Well, we just hit the explicit tag. I apologize.
I made the joke. I was making the joke about it, and someone was like, I forget how I was making the joke. I was thinking to Amber about it. I was like, we just stream it. And she's like, well, it's like a 2-person game. I'm like, it doesn't have to be.
That's true. It doesn't have to be. Oh crap. That's true.
Polyorkery.
That game is probably going to get played someday by one of us. I think so.
We'll probably play. I don't think we'll play it on April. It's like ridiculously explicit. I don't think
we play it on. I've never looked at it.
No, it's literally like you get into like detail. That's what makes it so funny to me. But
okay, never mind. Never mind. Okay.
All right,
super quick. Get demonetized so fast.
Okay, there we go. Off stream one.
We have a question in chat. I don't have problems with the starts and ends of storylines, but the middle is hard. Any tips?
Yeah, that's interesting.
The middle is the hard part.
I'm just like, you're preaching to the choir. Like,
you know what I like to do? I like to think of, like, if you think of your campaign, and this isn't easy to do, like, even my brain, which likes to compulsively organize like to an absurd level, in my campaign prep, stuff like that. Like I think of like there's 3 different arcs in every story, right? Types of arcs, I should say. There is the campaign arc, which is like start to finish the whole thing, right? So like draw one long line, right? Like beginning, end. There are then adventure arcs within that. So like not every campaign is made up of one adventure. It might be, but like there might be 3 or 4 adventures within a campaign. Yeah. Right. So like, farm boy to city to reclusive mountain to BBEG, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like there are your like chapters, right? And then a bunch of lines, underneath those is character arcs. And that's something I would say that's going to bail you out a lot in the middle, is if you haven't been spotlighting a certain character, a certain player's character, spotlight them. Bring in problems from their character's world, right? Their worldview. And that can like kind of either course correct you if you're not making progress on your campaign or adventure arc, make it a character's problem. And then that kind of course corrects. Or, wrap up a character's arc and make that a problem for another character. So it's like where one ends, the other has to pick up. That's where your middle.
Like I would add too, like depending on the type of campaign you're running. So if it's like a published 5e campaign, they're going to tell you where to go, right? Because those things come on Rails. But if it's like if it's something that's more of just a campaign, and think about, because characters, like players, will always like screw you up, right? Or screw up what you had planned. They'll never do the things you thought that you were going to do. So something that I like to think of is that this is what the bad guy wants to do, and these are the steps they're going to take to accomplish that. And the players can do whatever they want, and sooner or later they'll intersect with that because they'll notice what's going on, right? And the only time you really have to like change something is when the players like intercept what the bad guy's doing, and the bad guy has to interact with that, right? And that coupled with like side plots and stuff like that, like complicate the hell out of your characters' lives. Like go back to comics now. Think of Peter Parker, right? He's late, he owes money, and May's sick, Mary Jane's mad at him, and Dr. Octopus like is going to like tear down the city or kidnap someone, and all that shit's always going on at once, right? And like just make that happen to your people and make them make choices about what they're going to deal with, and that'll naturally give you tension even in the middle, which like tends to lag.
Very good. Very good.
Jess, yeah, I'm not always good at doing this, but I really like to keep things moving. And I would say don't be afraid to just montage things or time jump, right? Like if you're in a boring part and like just keep things exciting, right? People like to keep things exciting. So if you don't really have a middle, it's okay to just kind of skip it, right?
Mm-hmm. Very true.
Like if you've got nothing going on, it's okay to just be like, hey, we're going to jump like a month. What does your character kind of do in this time, right? We've had to do that a lot in RuneQuest because just the nature of the game is like that too. And it's fast moving.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, we have a couple of really good questions in chat right now.
I saw Cernibus's, which is I want to answer Cernibus's right now. Yeah, which is Cernibus is hold on, let me go back up to it. Cernibus says, hold on. I am mainly a player, not a GM, so when I feel like an imposter when I GM, any tips on what you think is important to be a good GM? So the day I stop being nervous about GMing will be the day I stop doing it.
Very valid.
You're always going to be nervous because it's by and large it's something that expects a lot out of you, and it's just kind of comes with the territory. I think that something that will make what makes a good DM or GM is you don't have like saying yes, but I don't mean saying yes to like everything. So if someone's like, I want the like, God killer sword, and my 20-page backstory says I was like a super special princess, whatever. Like you don't have to say yes to all those things, but give everyone something of what they want. It's like, think about negotiation. Like the art of negotiation is that everybody leaves the table with something that they wanted, right? Not necessarily everything that they wanted. And that's the same thing with GM. And like, if you have to say no to someone for something, still always try to make sure that they get something that they wanted, or find out what it is the player wanted about that thing. Because somebody might say, like, I go back and forth with this about Troy, and I've said this publicly all the time, so I'll say it again. Like, Troy is the most difficult person when you're setting up a campaign to trigger a character with him, because like when we were doing RuneQuest and he was coming up with characters, he drove me crazy because he had all these ideas of like, well, I want to have this, he just had these ideas that he wanted that didn't work with the system. And him and I kept going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth of like, well, that really wouldn't work. But what is it that you like about that thing that you want to have happen to your character? And I'll give you that, but I might not be able to give it to you the way you want it. So that's like, I think, you could always find a way to give your players what they want. You might not give them exactly what they want, but find a way to say yes, like in small ways, and that'll make you a good GM. And make one more thing. I'm going to tell you the story about Amber and the Raincoat. The first time we ever played Call of Cthulhu together, right? We played this Call of Cthulhu scenario. It's a famous one. It's I can't think of the name of it right now. It's the one where there's the player's like college professor leaves them the notes, and there's like the abandoned house out in the middle of nowhere with like the monster that they summoned in, and they have to go and they get rid of it. And it's always been in the starter set of Call of Cthulhu for like forever. And we were playing that adventure, and right before they were going to there, Amber was like, I buy a raincoat. And I'm like, okay, cool. Unbeknownst to her, as you start like trying to get rid of this monster, acid starts dripping down and people can get burned and everything. And I just remembered, like, she bought a raincoat, right? Cool. she's protected from the first round of acid. It just burns out burns through the raincoat. So if people, yes, Edge of Darkness. Thank you, Gilrush. It just escaped my mind. One of my favorite Call of Cthulhu scenarios of all time. So if people make decisions like that, like even if it's like something that, they made a decision, they decided to do that thing for a reason, make it mean something that they did that. Reward them for doing stuff like that. That's another thing that'll make you a good GM. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have two things really quick. I might have to run off quickly because my friend is here. But along the same lines as that, for me as a GM, I try and come up with like problems all the time that I throw at my players, but like make problems, but don't come up with a solution, right? Like you have to be really open-minded for like what the solution can be. And it can be really frustrating sometimes for your players if you have only one answer and they can't figure it out, right? And it's not fun, really. So like if you come up with a problem and just give it to your players, I don't know what the answer is, and I just pick whichever one I like. Like they'll come up with brilliant things, 5 minds are better than one. Yeah. So like just let them go and they'll be like, okay, that's exactly what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like that's great. That is the answer right there.
That was what it could be one of mine. Like it's the PBTA draw maps, leave blanks kind of concept.
Yes. So good. And then the second thing that I would say is really as a GM, you just have to do it. You just have to do it and just keep doing it. Because like when I first started to GM, let me tell you, I did so much research for like a year and a half. Like I just hardcore studied what it takes to be a GM, and it just does not prepare you until you're actually doing it. Like figuring out pacing, figuring out your players, figuring out like problem solving and managing like timing and like all of that. You just have to do it and just keep doing it.
Pacing is tough and will take time no matter what.
You just have to do it. But also, like I hated DMing when I started. Hated it. I really hated it, and then I grew into it. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say, in addition to every bit of incredible advice that was just given, obviously, like Jess said, don't come up with the solutions, but like be a fan of your players, right? Like give them opportunities to do the things that they want to do, like Christian said, right? But also challenge the things they're good at, right? Challenge the things their character has weird feelings on. And then the other thing I would say that would make you a good GM is remember that you can steal. You can totally steal. Like we talked about earlier, like if you just read a great story and it was like, you were like, that is so good. Like the entire mining media concept for me, that I do like these little 15, 20-minute shows, episodes is like, not your players are not going to have read the same books you did, even though like you've been consuming this a lot, or like you've been binging watching a TV show, right? Odds are your friends have not watched that show, or even if they are, they're not getting the exact same stuff out of it that you are. And you can take those things, and if you're like, I'm kind of dry on ideas, just be like, I loved this like concept for a villain. Take it, steal it, slightly reskin it to make it sense in your world, and just run it. And if by the end your friends are like, hey, was that this thing from this other thing that we're all familiar with? You can be like, yes, but did it feel cheap? Probably not, because like it's not the same story. You made different characters who had different cares, who had different flaws, who had different reasons to be doing the things they're doing than the characters in the show. You know what I mean? Or like the book.
Oh man, that's all I do.
So it's very big. I also want to answer Chris Wentz's question, which is so good. I'm addicted to prep. How do I go cold turkey? Buddy, just dive in. Gilrush said, just run blades. Like, just do it, because it forces you to not prep shit. Like, it forces you to not do it. It's like, if you prep blades, you're not gonna have a good time. Like, you gotta just let your characters, your players, buck up and score. Like, that's the fun of that game, is absolutely eating shit in a score. That's the best.
I'm with you. I am so not there yet. Like, I am such an anxious GM. Like, I have to prep 4 hours, like hours on end.
I'm a medium prepper, so maybe this will help you, Kent, because I'm in the middle, Chris, between Rainey and Jess. I have a couple pages of notes sometimes of stuff, but they're just bullet points, like bullet points of like questions, right? Like, what happens here? What about this? What about that? Because it's like more things I want to make sure I remember during the session, and it's always like I always try to make sure I advance like a subplot for everybody, like each session, so everybody feels they're involved with something, and then what's going on in like the main plot, and like you can't write the end. You just have to write like this is sort of the thing. This is like again that thing of like these are what the bad people are going to do. Sooner or later, your players are going to intersect with it. And Sharky just brought a good point. Love the prep. If you love the prep,
that's fine.
That's fine.
As long as you have the system, that's fine.
Yeah. I don't know if this happens to you, Sharky, but for me, right, and this happens more with my home game more than anything else, I like prep so much and I have all these things in my mind about like how it's going to go, and it never goes the way ever, right? And so sometimes I'm a little disheartened.
What I will say too, like that's like I used to prep a lot more and then get like aggravated about that.
Yeah.
And the answer to there's two answers that I found is one is like that taught me to scale back, and it taught me the things I really needed to prep, which is the thing you need to prep is the seed that starts whatever it is that you want to start. You don't need to prep the middle and the end because your players will take care of that. You just need to have like the inciting part of it or whatever it is that's going to trigger. And the second part is all that prep that you did that like nobody got to. Guess what? It's never wasted. It just goes in the backlogs and then you put it in sooner or later somewhere else,
Sure.
Yeah, even though I say I'm a zero prep person, like between sessions, like I'll go into a session with like 3 bullet points. Like that's my whole thing. But because I'm also a compulsive organizer, like in my mind, it like in the off time, in the downtime between sessions, I've thought about everybody's character and like something I want to do to that character or like present to that character to have to deal with. So like I always do have like, but again, I'm not prepping the scene, right? Like I'm not prepping like every detail of it. I'm prepping, like you said, the seed, right? Like a problem for every person and a big problem for the party, right? Like that's pretty much where I'm at.
Yep, that's all you need, right? And maybe if you're running a longer term campaign, like here's a really good tip. Like again, I'm in Mutants and Masterminds mode. I found this old note I wrote because I was looking through my notes, and it was like, at any given time in your campaign, there you have 2 or 3 major villains with a plot that's going forward, 2 or 3 villain organizations with a plot that's going forward, and a couple minor things.
Perfect.
And then you're also advancing like your character's subplots, right? Like whatever their complications are in their real lives. So I mean that's a lot. That's probably more than you actually need. But you do something like that, it's going to feel like so much is going on in your world because people will start coming across like these different plots, and then they'll have to make a decision like, do we go after the organ traffickers or do we stop like the evil magicians? Which one do we want to choose to do? And now they're going to feel like the sense of urgency. So all this goes back to that question about what do I do in the middle? You don't have to worry about that because they're gonna feel tension about all these things are going on. Which one? Oh my God, what do I do? I'm pulled in all these directions. How do I stop these things?
Yep. Think about like juggling, right? I mean, like they got 3 balls in the air. If they're juggling 2 of them, that 3rd ball's about to drop. You know what I mean? Like let that ball drop, and then that's problems. Yeah. Let's go on here. Yeah. If you could design your own TTRPG system.
Oh my God, Rainey.
Huh?
Our 2 people who are trying to create a game, yes.
Yeah, right. If you could design your own TTRPG system, I'm on it. Let's go. What would be its theme or setting, and what system would you use, or would you craft your own? Like, would you use Forged in the Dark, PBTA? Would you use Year Zero engine, etc.? I will refrain from answering this question because I have a lot of games in production, and actually,
Rainey is more of a game designer, but Rainey and I have actually written a system that.
And Jess, I just sent
Jess. So Jess is reading through it too. But we have our own system. No spoilers yet, but we're designing sort of like a apocalypse, post-apocalyptic game sort of system that we're working on. So we clearly would design our own.
and not only that, to answer the other part of that question. I'm pretty sure, Christian, we came up with an incredibly unique and novel dice mechanic for it.
Yeah, honestly, it came out of discussions between him and I of like stuff that we've never seen before, and then we had your friend do the math on it, and it actually has a great probability bell curve, and we're like, this is awesome.
Yeah. My friend has a master's in like math. And I was like, bro, can you just crunch these numbers for me? Because I can't figure this out. And he did it, and he sent it to me, and I was like, oh my God, it works. oh my God, it works.
It's alive. Yeah.
It does it.
I mean, I hate reading RPGs, so I feel like I would hate designing one too. I don't know. I just don't have the brain for mechanics and stuff like that the way these 2 do. I just love stories. That's kind of it.
Jess, I have in my game design doc, which is absurdly long at this point. I don't want anybody to judge me, but it's definitely like I think it's like 140 pages. Anyway, that's just for my unfinished ideas, like not Rust, which is like 140.
Rust is over 100 pages too. Yeah,
but Jess, I have in that like I have every DM's name and just next to it ideas for games I can design with them because I will rope you all into making a game with me at some point. It doesn't have to be me and Christian's level of like here's a 200-page like insane game,
but like a 1-page maybe.
Do you know what I wrote next to yours? Because at one point you said like I wish I could just play games in my pajamas with like a Tequila Sunrise or something like that, and I just wrote like PJ game, like that's what I wrote next to it. It's like what's like a you know, just a bedtime game we could write.
We'll see.
Maybe.
I would love to play a game in PJs and have a Tequila Sunrise. So that sounds like me.
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
All right, next.
What's next? We can skip the next couple if you guys want.
What do we got? What are they? Let's see.
How about this? Super quick. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Neutral. I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm neutral towards it. I don't have the hatred towards it.
I'd never order it, but I've eaten it.
Yeah,
same here. I wouldn't turn it down. Yeah,
I like pineapple, but I like pineapple like in my scorpion bowls. All right. Here's another one. Sometimes people get busy. It's understandable. Still plans to run 1,000-Year-Old Vampire? That's a question for Amber.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Yeah, it's up to her, but I mean, I know she's mentioned it a couple times, wanting to get back to it. So,
Doc Boyd does not like it. Sharky and Doc Boyd are like, absolutely not.
No,
get that pineapple out of here. All right. If you could turn any of our past show segments into a long-form campaign,
oh crap! I answered.
Which would you have liked to have dug deeper into? You could switch game systems, but keep the story. So like. And this is mostly about like our earlier games, right? Like that we did like 2-3 sessions of.
Yeah, right.
That's like Shadows of Estrin, Avatar Legends. Like these are examples. Even Invisible Sun. I think that might be my answer. It might be surprising that I don't say Good Society, but once I got used to Invisible Sun, and I also just loved my character in Invisible Sun.
I loved Invisible Sun too. Actually, I had a lot of fun running that. Yeah,
I feel like that game. It's one of those ones where we talked about it even when we were streaming it. Like, it's a do your homework game. Like, players need to be ready to know a lot because like every magic system, depending on what like what was it like class house or
it's different.
Yeah,
your magic works differently.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And like,
but it's also it was also a game where one thing I loved there was like everybody had to have like multiple goals running on at once, and you really told the GM like this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then the GM just like built that for you. And I love that aspect of it. And I think the characters that we had legs in that system, like legs beyond what we played. Yeah. And I think also like I look back on it and I'm happy with the way it came out. I think we had a really great story and like the ending was amazing. Like Amber voiding the Borderless one. Like I never saw that coming at all.
So good.
I was just proud of the whole like deep subconscious thing I came up with like the whales swimming through like the dreams. But I regret that Troy wasn't at the ending of that one. I do. And I just think too that like the system is better showcased by a longer game. That one.
That's that one opinion. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Invisible Sun is also one of those games where Troy's character concept. I feel like
he was like,
but it works well. It's a weird world.
And I was just like, I can't technically say no because it's a very weird place. So, and I think I said to him at that point, I said like, this is your chance for me to just not say no. So just do all your weird crap.
Yeah.
Jelly
do all your weird crap. Yeah. It's perfect.
Jelly
So I'm a bit biased, but there was just so much that I didn't get into with Honor and Intrigue, both like in the system, and there was so much like in terms of the societies and some of the stuff that was going on with war in the background that I didn't get to touch on. And that is something that
I would have liked for Jean to actually have had a sword duel instead of talking everyone out of.
Yep.
That's fair.
Yep. I know.
And I did really enjoy playing Jean a lot too. So
Jean is such a classic, like classic literature character. I feel like.
Yeah.
Was was proud of him. He was probably
Yeah.
There's of my favorite characters on stream. Jean is probably my favorite character that I've ever played. Jean and Rosalie, I both love a lot. I love them a lot. Yeah. I wouldn't be hard pressed to tell you which one I like more. But yeah.
All right, so I have
There's
to
the
run
question.
soon.
Wex, just go. What's the favorite character you played and why? So Jean Maria Volante de Cavalcante was the seriously good but reformed swordsman that I played in Honor and Intrigue, who just talked everyone. He just talked everyone down from fighting and de-escalated everything because he's like, dude, I'm going to kill you. And I really, really loved him. Because he was sort of a departure. He was actually a more mature version of the average Christian character, because the average Christian character is just an arrogant dick. And John had like matured past that stage in his life and was like, I shouldn't have done those things. And I like that. I really loved him. And then Rosalie is the character I'm currently playing in Vaesen, who's not anything like any of those. She's just like a weird witch. And she's super cool because I like her because she gets very caught up emotionally in things, and she allows her feelings to like carry her more than maybe her good sense, and I like that about her. She got chokeslammed by a ancient goddess, and so and she was like totally okay with that, and I like, again, those are my two favorites. I'm not going to pick one between them.
I was just showing off my folder full of character sheets from all of our streams and podcasts. So I'm going through it now. But honestly, I think Darcian from Invisible Sun might be one of my favorite characters I've played.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Because he was equal parts different for me, just like from a I don't know, maybe not. He's kind of like the essential Rainy character, which is like nerd. I have a lot of questions about how this world works, but also like competent in some ways and completely useless in others. You know what I mean? Like, which is how I like to play my characters. Like strong weaknesses, like specialists, you know what I mean? With burning questions. So yeah, that might be the one for me, is Darcian.
So I really loved Maddie from Kids on Bikes.
Yeah.
I loved awesome. Maddie. Yeah. And I really loved Joan from Crossroad Carnivals. Mm-hmm. I really loved playing the characters who were just kind of carefree. Yeah, those two. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I loved
Mads was great.
Yeah, Mads was great. I loved her.
I had this plan that if we ever want to, I would love to run a game of Kids on Brooms that takes Kids on Bikes characters and says, like, you accidentally realize there's magic in the world, so like now we have to enroll you in the school. Welcome to the behind the curtain. You know what I mean? Like, and all of you start realizing like, oh, anyone can do magic, and like we have to force like Mads and like Troy's like indigenous gun wield.
Oh God.
It's a magic school.
Oh God,
that'd be fun. But yeah, the things that live in my head, but will never probably happen.
Yeah, you need to bounce, Jess.
Yes, I do. Yeah, if there's any last question for me, I do have to go soon.
Jess, I have your response to the RuneQuest question, so I'll read them later.
So that's fine. Yeah. Oh yeah, he is here.
All right, last question for you, Jess. Ready? Super quick.
Yeah.
You had a solo specific question. You ran a 4 or 5 episode arc of Honor and Intrigue that had an amazing story and ending. What are your plans for your next series on the DMs After Dark feed?
I don't know. I have an itch to run something soon, and I want to run like a 3 or 4 episode arc again, but I don't know.
All right.
I'm looking at oceanic stuff. Maybe. We'll see. I have no idea. It's up in the air. I've got an itch though.
All right.
Okay, I have to go. I'll see you guys later.
Have a good one. Take care, Jess. Thank you for stopping by. Oh, cool. So you actually just covered a camera. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say,
quick question. Ghost asked a question. Character deaths planned have a place in the campaign?
Planned?
Yes, I think so. Planned, yeah.
NPC, PC, I guess it depends.
So I'll give you an example just from my home game recently. We had an issue, well, not an issue, but we had a character death that was planned, and it was just kind of a two-pole port. I mean, I don't speak for the player, but I think it was kind of like wanted to play a different character.
Oh yeah, sure.
Sort of thing. And then it also, her character, we found out had a twin sister who was like this other different sort of character. So it's like kind of like we got the same character back, but it's just like a different class kind of thing, But meanwhile, like the other character isn't necessarily dead; they're just in another dimension. But I mean, that's sort of a planned death. But I think there's definitely a place for it within the
Deaths and Secret Twins. Are we talking? You guys playing?
Yeah, we're talking. Yeah, we should get basically just with 5e. No, I think that definitely works if someone's just like tired of playing a character. Sometimes the characters run their course, and that might be, the last heroic death is a really awesome thing. And I think that works with NPCs too. Not to spoil things, but there's some pretty cool NPC deaths in 6 Seasons in Sartar that were totally like planned and were very dramatic and were planned for that dramatic purpose.
Yeah, I think NPCs makes more sense, right? Like,
I think if it's with a character, with a player, they have to be the one who wants to do it. Right?
There it is. And actually, a lot of the games I've been playing lately, like the not trad games, like the more narrative games, like if they have hit points or if they have harm or whatever, I do love that typically, like, dying is always the player's decision. Like, even if they get, like, absolutely stomped.
I think it always should be that way personally. Like, I mean, my ground rule for any game that I play, even if it's not written in the rules, is that's the case.
I always ask.
I don't think it's fair to kill a beloved character, arbitrarily.
I always ask. I've made some mistakes. Don't get me wrong. So like, I'm going to bring up one of my home group characters, home group players, and it's going to answer both sides of this question, where in the past I've like playing D&D 5e, we were playing Tomb of Annihilation, and he picked a fight he shouldn't have, and they're like level 3, and a red wizard Kona cold them, and like he crit failed or something, like it was like bad, and he died, straight up died. Like, it brought to 0 hit points, and it says like you freeze and like you're dead, and I just let it happen, and then afterwards we were like, that felt terrible, you know what I mean? But that same player, Rasso, who did our logo, he also loves playing characters that kind of want to be that self-sacrificial, like, for whatever reason. Either like they are like noble to the point of stupidity, or like are just depressed to the point of like, if someone's got to go, let it be me and let me blow myself up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, give me this moment. Like, I need this redemption kind of thing. So like, I know he's going to bring that up for some characters. And so that lets me know there's going to be a time where you're going to see the opportunity, and I don't want to get in your way. I want to facilitate that awesome scene.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a time to play.
Ask a question, how many games you're in. The DM stream, and I have a home game, and that's pretty much it. And then occasionally there's one-shots or one-off stuff here. Earlier in the year, we had a playtest game going for some Call of Cthulhu stuff I wrote. So typically 2, sometimes 3. But only 2 longer-term things. Yeah.
I guess if you count my solo stuff, 2. I have a home group plays every week, and I have right now, the other podcast feed under the DM Such a Dark Umbrella, Rainy Plays Games, I'm doing solo podcasting, but I'm going to be releasing a group one-shot soon. So like, I do run other games.
Nice.
When I have time.
Nice. What do we got next? So that's that. Troy's. I'm going to read Troy's, and then we'll get into the other stuff.
So then we got some player-specific.
So we got some player-specific ones. So I'll do Troy's. So,
do you want to do one of Troy's, and then I'll go, and then you can do one of yours, and then. Yeah.
So first one, Troy, you're a very compassionate and empathetic person who loves helping others. You find the good in most NPCs in game. You often build characters who show these traits, but I have to ask, what would be a trait in a villain that you'd feel would make them irredeemable? Dig deep. So this was Troy's answer. That's a great Troy question, by the way. And so he says, I think for me as a person, I've committed to the idea that no action or trait is irredeemable. And it's interesting because Troy and I debate on this often.
And I disagree with that hard.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. It is not a thought process for everyone. It is an challenging sometimes, especially when things are personal. For a character, though, I think my least redeemable quality amongst villains is probably sexual or physical abuse, particularly against children. However, fortunately for me, I play with a good group of folks that know that's typically off the table for me, which it is. It's always off the table as far as I'm concerned. As far as something on the table, I have experienced torture is very difficult for one of my characters to forgive. This is why the scene between Ronaldo and Christian's character in our Vaesen session was so incredible for me, because the guy was literally abusing and trafficking children. As much as I boiled my blood, Ronaldo still drew the line torturing the guy, because then we are no better than him. And I'll talk about this, because you talk about moments before where, like, you know, people kind of blow you away at the table, and that was one, because I got really into the character there. And, like, you know, when Ronaldo was just like, no, I'm not going to go help you, I was like, whoa, it was kind of like a slap in the face. And then, like, that was a real moment. I had like real emotions when they like called me out on that. And so, yeah, Troy's awesome.
You know, we're like, it's interesting to inhabit a character that has an opinion that may align with yours, or you may even be playing a character whose opinion is different from yours because you want to explore that. And then to have another character like challenge either one of those kind of makes you go, oh, like I have to really think about my position. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's true. I'll do one of my solo questions, then you can jump to one of yours. And then so this is one. Let me just double check chat, make sure we're not missing any other questions here. All right. For me, I had a question that said, and thank you if any of you feel this way. It says, many of us miss you on the live stream, but understand life's busy. Your choice to do more solo games has made perfect sense and is entertaining. Thank you. I hope people think so. Do you plan to do more pre-recorded games, but with multiple players? If so, which system? Yes. And in fact, it's something that I want to do. I think that ideally, if we can work out the scheduling, which is the hardest part, I would like to do a thing, because like before I started the Rainy Plays Games podcast feed, I was basically doing the off weeks for the DMs, right? They would stream. I did it the podcast that would go up the week after, and then the day of a stream, I'd have released a podcast. So every Friday was a podcast. But I do miss playing with people. Like, I have my home game, and as Lynn pointed out in the chat, I do run a lunchtime game at my work, which is surprisingly incredible. It's like really good. I will gush about it forever. But I want to do more group games, especially with the DMs. If I can't be there for stream, it's something I'm trying to figure out if we can work out a schedule where, like, once a month we run a game. And if it's like a one shot, or if it's just a game that we play for 2.5 hours that I then edit into like 3 episodes, we could throw it up on both feeds. You know what I mean? And just kind of, or just the DM suite, doesn't really matter. Just to get them more out there. And, like, again, just kind of like push that mission of ours, which is like, we want to show you guys all those great games that are out there, you know? And some demand more long form dedication than others. So, like, let those live on, let those be a thing that we're streaming. And then if we can work out the thing, obviously the last few weeks, streams for us, I've run silly little one shots, which is my jam. I love silly little one shots. But games I do want to run with a group are that Fight with Spirit, which is the sports anime game. I would love to return to Avatar Legends. I love the Avatar verse so much, and I would love to do.
I will not be invited back for that.
Christian, you're on a short leash on that one. Masks, which someone asked about in chat. Animon Story. I love Pokemon and Monster Catchers, Monster Friend games. Animon Story is a little more Digimon, because I think your people like your Animon Talk and stuff like that. But I've played multiple Pokemon tabletop RPGs, and they just fall flat because they're either trying to be too much exactly like the video game, or there's just too many rules, because obviously there's like 1,000 Pokemon at this point. Fabula Ultima, the TTJ RPG. Jess might be running this one. It's one of her front runners, if I'm not mistaken, but Wild Sea. Just wild, weird game. And I want to run Delta Green. I want to try my hand at.
Oh, dude, I'm so in if you run Delta Green.
Delta Green so bad.
I've always wanted to play Delta Green, and I'll just die. Like, I'll just straight up die in Delta Green and be happy about it. I love that. Yeah.
I love True Detective. I love procedurals and stuff like that, and I feel like Delta Green is.
Delta Green always devolves though into like the agents have like shot the convenience store owner and need to like get rid of the body at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like and like everything's covered in blood, and it's just like, it's like that Pulp Fiction when you shoot the guy in the back of the seat of the car. It just devolves into that situation. Like,
Delta Green is you're the wet team, right? But you're gonna mess up and need a wet team.
Yep, exactly. All right, let's do mine. Let's see what's mine. Mine's a real good one, actually. I have to put some thought into this one. So Christian, you have written and published several Call of Cthulhu scenarios, example being The Night Mother's Moon and Xenora and the Sins of Saint Sonara, both available on Drive Through RPG from the fine folks at Stygian Fox.
Electrum bestseller right now, right?
Both of them are, yeah.
Get them up there. Come on.
Yeah. What are some tips for people who want to get their feet wet with the TTRPG scene? Suggestions. So, I started writing again in 2020 when we were all home and we had nothing to do. And there's two things I will tell you. Number one is that writing a RPG for like a scenario for publication is really, really different than writing it like for your home group, because you hear about like I have bullet points, right? You can't do that if you're writing for a scenario. You kind of have to do like a beginning and a middle and an end. But it's also impossible to anticipate like what every group is going to do. So if you think about it, if you're making it an adventure for your friends, like I know my friends, I know what they like, I can build the things in. And believe it or not, the first one I wrote, Sins of Saint Sonara, was something I had written for my friends because I was running a Call of Cthulhu scenario at the time. And so it was like a lot of the stuff that's in it was specific for like those people. Like this one's going to like this one's going to like that, this is going to be cool. And then I wound up just talking to the people at Stygian Fox and asking them some questions about some stuff, and was like, I need to know because I'm writing this I'm writing this scenario, and they asked, well, what scenario you're writing, and they were just kind of like, oh, that's cool, send it over, and that's what happened. So I will tell you that people in our business are like people in the TTRPG business, like super approachable, and I found that streaming too. Like we're all nerds. Right. Even the professionals, like they're all nerds. We all love the same things. Like they're going to talk to you. They're going to get back to you. Like people at Magpie have been awesome about getting back to us. People at Free League have been super awesome to us. People at Chaosium have been awesome to us. And they're just like, we're all nerds. Like we all love the same stuff. So it's not like submitting your manuscript to like Penguin to be published. It's you can generally like reach out to people and talk to them and be like, hey, I'm thinking about this thing. What do you think about it? And give them a pitch. And if they're interested, they might be like, hey, send it over. So do that. But I would say that make sure that you understand, for instance, Chaosium has on their website, you can find they have basically their in-house like style, right? Of what they expect the scenario to be and how they expect it to be written. Learn that and do it. You can't send something in that's not in the format they used to. They're not going to like think about it or want to see it. But also, a good place to cut your teeth, which I intend to write some more stuff for now, is stuff for like the community content programs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great way to do it because you'll learn like they have all that stuff I just talked about, like their style guide. It's there. It's available. You can learn how to format it. You put it in the community content and you're publishing. So just do that. They support it and they'll support you. I mean, again, I speak for Chaosium because my experience has been with them and obviously I'm a Chaosium fanboy, but Nick Brook will literally print up the stuff for the community contents. Like Chaosium will spend their own money, print up the community content books. They'll have them in print form, and they'll go to cons, and that'll be on the Chaosium table. They'll be sold right alongside the Chaosium products. And when every sale that's made, you'll still get your cut. So, I mean, nobody else is, I'm not aware of anyone else that's doing that for their community content program, but that's a great one if you like Chaosium games. But, yeah, definitely like start with the community content things. All the games that we love are pretty much very welcoming communities. So no one's going to be mad at you for writing something for the game that they love. And if they are, like, they're not worth your time, screw them. And, write what you love. Think about it more from a point of view of you have to write a little bit more than that initial seed for your scenarios, but you don't write the ending, right? Hey, Amber. Write the beginning, write the middle, but you can't write the ending. That's up for your players. That's the best writing advice I could give to you for writing scenarios for publication.
I will say I was looking a while back because I'm working on a Forged in the Dark game.
Yep.
Just because like I wanted to test myself and be like, can I write something for an established system? I believe like check out the certain websites like for certain, those like middle ground publishers. I believe Evil Hat has just a submission thing. Like you can just like they'll be like, as long as you like fit within these like within this box, send us your thing. Like we might not get back to you. We might get back to you with comments. We might not even comment and just say like, sorry, we're not taking this right now. But like you can
Get
throw
some
it out
feedback at the very least. Yeah. And then there's
and the circles. No, and I'm just saying like I've realized that the circles for TTRPGs, it's so much smaller than you think. Like even though, Chaosium to me seems like this massive company, like the people who are working there are still just nerds who like they like RPGs. You like RPGs, you're not going to bother them with your question or your potential idea, right? That might
I mean, that was mind blowing when that started happening to me. When you start talking to the people whose names you see on these books, and they're just like they're nerds. They're nerds like you, and they're very super approachable. So approach them, and just remember, like what Rainey said. Like I had this, like idea of like Chaosium. Like even the biggest RPG publishing company is ridiculously small in the publishing world.
Yeah.
Outside of obviously Wizards of the Coast, right? But like outside of that, but all the other ones, they're ridiculously small. And so like reach out to people. So the second part of it is if you wanted to get started podcasting or streaming games, what advice would you give? My best advice would be just to do it. Like research. I mean, there's tons of I watched YouTube and saw people how to build an overlay, how to use OBS. There's tons of tutorials on it. It's a pretty easy thing to use. All of it was watching YouTube and just get started doing it. And you don't know where you're going to wind up. I mean, we went and started on a wing and a prayer, and here we are. So still on a wing and a prayer.
Yeah. I will say this, as somebody who listens to too many RPG podcasts and tries to keep up with a lot of people who are streaming and doing content and stuff like that. Even if you find out that you find someone that you really like, if they've been doing it for a few years and you're listening to their most recent episodes and you're like, oh, this is great. And you go back to the beginning and you're like, oh, their audio quality. Like I haven't done this because I'm kind of afraid to, but if I went and listened to like episode 1, Shadows of Esteren, I'd probably like want to punch myself for the audio editing.
I feel like I've gone back and like that's one thing. If I could go back and change anything, it would be our Blue Ridge Bride was so great and it looks like shit in the video to me. Like it just looks like shit. It
doesn't take away from the quality of the content, but like you're gonna get better, right? Like you're gonna get better, and like if in the end, you do find out you like doing it and you find yourself you have a system, you'll look back at those beginning things. Worst case scenario, you can go back. If I wanted to, I could open up the Audacity file for Shadows of Esteren right now, re-upload the audio thing with like a quick thing in the beginning that says like, hey, if you're starting at episode 0 of the DMs After Dark podcast, I promise our audio quality gets better. You know what I mean? Like I promise it does. Stick with it. You know what I mean? Like, but like, just know this was us when we had no idea what we were doing. We were still learning everything. Like, don't quit on us because of that. And I think that most people will go, nice, thank you. Like cool. But yeah, but just do it. Honestly, just do it.
Yeah, just do it. But you're up. I think you had 2, right?
I'm gonna answer my last 2 questions because I'm not gonna answer one of them strategically here. Dustin's other 2 questions for me was: can you explain in detail a few of the projects you're working on at this time, like writing TTRPGs?
We don't have all night. Yeah.
And right. We don't have all night is a good point. But I will say this: if you are interested in hearing about the games, the many, many games that I have kicking around in my dumb brain here, later this month on the Rainy Plays Games podcast feed, I'm releasing a podcast episode where I'm literally just going to talk about all of my ideas for games. And like, I'm going to time myself and be like, I have 2 minutes to pitch you this game and like the big thing about it. And I'm going to go through each of them. And it's mostly a thing where like, it's almost me forcing myself to put it out there and say, I'm working on this. So it's a promise that I will do it and I will get it done for you all. If any of you care, if anybody listens and goes, that one game sounds good. Well, now I'm on the record for having said that I'm making it. So I have to make it now. But also it might be something that like, if anybody reaches out and says, that sounds cool, it's going to make me go, well, damn, here we go. Let's go. You know what I mean? So if you're interested in the games that I'm trying to design and get out there, I will talk about that later this month. And then the other question is, how do you manage to record, edit, and upload so much content every month? on top of full-time work and raising a kiddo. My wife is incredibly patient and nice nice to me, that like one night a week I just look at her and go, I need to go in the office for 2.5 hours. And she's like, yeah, okay, go for it. See ya. I'll watch binge TV some or whatever. So shout out to Lynn in the chat. Rainy doesn't sleep and cries a lot. You know, you're half right there. I actually sleep like a baby. But yeah, it's, you know, luckily 3 years into this, I've gotten pretty good about templating my audio editing, so that helps. But yeah, I do have to carve out time whenever I can to get some stuff done. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
I think that's is that all the regular questions? So we can do the room.
Yeah, that's it for us. And then I'll just answer Troy's while you get the
yeah, I'll pull those other ones up. Yeah.
So the other two questions he had for Troy was, Troy, do you like crunchy systems, narrative heavy, or in the middle? In the past, Troy has described a dislike of min-max players, like min-maxers. And Troy's answer was, as a general rule, he prefers rules light because it frees up more headspace for role play. From a standpoint, he doesn't have to learn a lot with crunchy. You know, he tries to avoid learning a lot with crunchy systems, but he does appreciate folks that do and respect the time and effort they put into those mechanics, because making them work is hard, you know, which is valid. And then, as we always say, sometimes Troy can't make streams because he is out there saving people's lives. Yeah. He's a first responder, paramedic. And so one of the questions was, what are life-saving skills or knowledge you've learned on the job? And he says, the single most important life-saving bit of information from personal experience is that vulnerability is courageous and shows a tremendous amount of strength. It is not weakness. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. It opens up doorways to some of life's most painful, beautiful, rewarding, and mystifying experiences to be had. Second bit of advice is stay strapped or get clapped. Thanks, Troy. Thanks, Troy.
I'm copying these because I want to post them just in the Zoom chat, Rainy, because I have like other people's answers in also in the email. So we got some really good.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that are RuneQuest specific, because that's like our last year, like that and Vaesen.
Yeah.
Are really.
So let's do the general question. So I'll answer these last. I want to read other people's answers first, I think. So why don't I read?
Recording in progress.
I don't know what I just did. My bad.
Oh, all right. Do you want to can you get into DM's email? That way you could read one and I can read it and I'm just not like reading.
I can do that. Yeah.
All right. I'll do Kent's first. Why don't I do that? So I'll read Kent's answers first and then we'll take it from here. So first, these were the general questions. So the general questions for everybody were, what was your favorite Harrowborn NPC you met during 6 seasons in Sartar? What was the inspiration behind each of your characters? Did you take an element from another game of content and shift it to Glorantha? What is one piece of Glorantha lore that captured your imagination and draws you in? Ducks or trolls? It's kind of like pineapple pizza or no. The crew are about to return to Glorantha. What was one thing you missed from the RuneQuest campaign? Mythology, setting, relationship, hate, Lunars? Why should you hate the Lunars? They're right. It makes me happy to see a gaming group with PCs that have meaningful relationships with NPCs and PCs alike. Love is in the air. Was the relationship between Rue and Bryn, Orisa and Kymrese, and lastly, Discar and Izrala planned that ahead of time, or did they happen naturally because of the game's direction? And lastly, what is one thing you really want to work on during Company of the Dragon? Learning the rules, character development, learning the lore, developing more relations with NPCs, and so on. And then Kent's in particular, because I'm going to read his first. Discara is a hunter and provider. What is one animal or creature you think he would love to hunt? Number 2, your PC is built like a monster. He is. His stats are ridiculous. When you go full beast mode, you can annihilate most foes. Despite this, what is one thing you think Discara fears the most? A certain foe, being alone, existential. Bears, you love bears. That is clear. What is the story behind this theme of bears? Past PCs. P.S. Your next character should just be an awakened bear. I agree with that. And I have a player in the current 6 season Sartar who is an Odala lay member and soon to be initiated. Do you have any advice for him as a player or something I as a GM could do for my player to make his experience better? So let's read Kent's answers.
I think there's more Kent's answers than I have. So.
Yeah, hold on a minute. So, because I kind of like screenshotted them, so I have to like make them bigger so I can see them because I'm old. All right, so What was your favorite Haribon PC you met during 6 seasons of Sartar? Aranina. Which will be a common theme from the things I've seen. What is the inspiration behind each of your characters? Did you take a ship to content? So originally, he was only going to. This is true. He was only going to pop in and out as a bench warmer when another person couldn't make it. But then we were just like, why don't we just keep? So the idea was, Adela guys, they'll go hunting and wandering for a long period of time. They won't be around. But then it just was like, well, we'll just have Des play constantly because we love Kent, and so. That's what happened. What is one piece of Galantha lore that captured your imagination? He says he wouldn't say there was one thing. He's the type that kind of gets drawn into the settings and stuff I play because I like to use it all to help make more grounded characters. And that's true. Kent read the rulebook and was asking me all sorts of questions when he was making his character.
That's right.
Ducks or trolls? Personally, I don't know much about either at the moment, but I would have to say trolls just because of the goddess of eating. It's another common answer you're going to see a lot. Vanakira the eater.
Ducks. The answer is ducks.
Everybody's about to return to Galantha. What are you looking forward to? Relationship dynamics of the game is something that he misses and he can't get well. Oh my God, I can speak English. Can't wait to get back to. And let's see, last one. Let me just make this bigger too. It makes me happy to see a gaming group with PCs that have meaning relationships. So this is true. For Dessa Desrala, of all the things that kind of popped up, the romances that popped up on screen, the only one that was planned was Dessa Desrala, because those who've read 6 seasons of Sartar know that Desrala is like a planned PC, and a romance with a PC is something that's kind of put out there, and it's probably important to have. So I had approached Kent ahead of time on this and was like, hey, listen, would you be down? So that was the only one that was planned. And there's one thing that you want to work on: learning the rules, certain character development, learning the lore, all of the above for sure. You can't wait for Company Dragon to see what it brings for our characters and what challenges are inevitably going to warp our realities. How true.
Good answer.
Blah, ha, ha. All right.
I got Amber's answers to questions.
Yeah, why don't you do Amber and I'll do Jess. Yeah.
Amber's favorite NPC, also Aranina Copperaxe, but she put in some, she says, big strong woman who protects, uplifts, and respects the very feminine women of the Earth Temple rather than is framed against them. The antithesis of I'm not like the other girls trope. Yes, please, all day, every day, sign me up. Honorable mention, Walks in the Dark and Lanson. So fucking cool.
Yeah.
Inspiration for Rue. Rue, right?
Yep.
I said it and was like, that didn't feel right off the tongue, but
yeah.
This is a great first sentence. If you know Amber, I was really overdue for a werewolf. Yep.
That's
and the
literally how I got. So fun story. That's how I got everyone to play RuneQuest, because it's like I am a very good salesperson, and I know my weak links, and I was like, if I can convince Amber that she could play a werewolf, she will then help me convince everyone else. And so I was just like, you can be a werewolf in this game. It's so cool. The werewolves are cool. And yeah, here we are.
Inspiration for Rue. Overdue for werewolf. The way Tel Mori are villainized by other Sardarite cultures drew her in. She fucking loves werewolves. Yes, she does. There are tropes that she's tired of. Chief among is alpha male trope and shifter fiction, especially paranormal romance. She's tired of werewolf heroes being hot-tempered, fragile-egoed rage machines that need to assert dominance or possession over everyone. So she wanted to answer that with a different kind of werewolf hero, which is Rue, sweet, gentle, and supportive. Insecure about a lot of things, but masculinity and dominance isn't one of them. The first thing she did mechanically when building him was to make his Earth rune the highest elemental rune. He's a caretaker and not ashamed of that. He's growing into a leader without stepping onto the toes of dominance and control. In making Rue, she set out to challenge 2 pervasive tropes and motifs, the first being alpha male, the second being the body of myth surrounding and villainizing wolves. Rue is my truer to wolf werewolf. Actual wolves are not violent, domineering creatures. They're shy, they're social, and loving, and pack as a family unit, not a hostile military command. Fun fact, the alpha male concept within wolves especially is not a thing. It's not really a thing, biologically speaking. So
the research was actually retracted, right, by the person who did it originally. Yeah.
Is this next part also for? This might be for the next question. What was the third question?
Hold on. The third question, general questions.
I know, I'm reading Cernibus says, Amber, I see you put more thought into your characters than I do. Same. My characters, I'm usually like broad strokes and I'll deepen it in play.
Yeah.
So
what is really a piece of lore that draws you in?
Oh, yeah. So Amber said she loves the Orlanthe goddesses of Glorantha and the duality of sacred feminine captured in the goddesses of fertility and goddesses of destruction. Speaks to me about at this stage in her life. A younger, less experienced Amber would have been all about the gores, non-conforming women, the breaking of traditional gender roles, but the older Amber has a more nuanced perspective on what feminism and femininity really is. It's not something that opposes traditional gender roles or tears down the women who raise children and tend the home. It's a perspective that embraces the many ways women can be powerful, and in truly seeing the different versions of that power as worthy as masculine depictions of power. RuneQuest has impressed me with its rounded, nuanced grasp of that, and it has been that nuanced for like 40 fucking years. Like
it's 50. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also says the spoon that has prepared a meal has as much weight as the sword. Between Vingans, Ernaldans, and Gores, there is a broad and nuanced understanding of women and femininity, and they work together. I'm about that now. Next question. Ducks or trolls? Amber said trolls. Fucking yeet. Accurate. The next one was I think you missed.
To return to Glorantha, what is one thing you miss?
Bonds that have been built between the characters. They've grown into a family that feels authentic to Amber, and that love is authentic. Can't wait to get back to a game about holding and defending the things and people you love. Romances. The answer is a little bit of both. She loves playing romances and RPGs, and so does Jess. They've had a few other characters fall in love in past games, so they go into new games hoping for that spark, but it doesn't always happen. Amber doesn't plan her characters in coordination with a love interest. She makes the character, and they like what they like. They want what they want, and so there's not always a compatibility. But Rue and Bryn had an easy, almost sandbox longing from the beginning. Amber could tell right away the first couple sessions I was playing a boy who'd been in love with his best friend since they were playing with sticks in the mud, that they've been there watching each other grow and change their whole lives, and now their relationship is growing and changing too. What Amber wants to work on for the next bit in Company of the Dragon is all kinds of plans and hopes for Rue's journey and character arc, but that's easy for me. The thing I want to put work into is cracking some of the books, getting more familiar with the mechanics. Christian carried us that first season.
I didn't do a good job of it either. Actually, the truth is chat carried us.
Yeah. I don't even think that's necessarily wrong. I think that big picture, it felt fine to me.
I think so too. Yeah.
There was a question in chat real quick before we hop into someone else's. Setting and lore is important to me for getting into character in games. Do you find this to be true with you guys as well?
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely.
Fully informs the decisions I'm going to make. Like I said earlier with Darcian, my Invisible Sun character, and if you listen to the Tropes episode I did with Troy and everything like that, I like to play nerds. I like to play characters who have burning questions about the setting, and I want to answer a question through my character in the game. Like if it's not a silly one shot, like if it's a game that has an implied setting, or even if it's a homebrew setting that a GM has put work into, I'm going to ask you questions about how it works. I want to know that, and I want to make a character who mechanically has a reason to explore that. Yeah,
makes sense. All right, Jess. So, and Troy and Sarah all were unfortunately unable to answer their questions, but we'll endeavor to get their answers at some point out to everyone. So, Jess had some individual questions for Brandon, and the other ones, the general ones, are at the bottom. So, how far will Bryn go to free her people? Jess says, I'm not sure, and I don't think Bryn does either. Bryn definitely has lines, but I think part of her journey right now is learning just that, how far she's willing to go and how much she's willing to give up in this fight. She has a lot of anger and a lot of resentment, and sometimes that gets the best of her in a moment. She wants to believe that she'll fight to the end and give herself for the cause, but this love thing has made things a little bit tricky. I'm excited to find out, too. A little bit of a spoiler for everyone. Bryn's going to have to find out eventually, and possibly decide to give up some pretty big stuff.
Getting some behind the scenes here in the Q&A.
Yes. We'll see. If it works out the way I hope, it'll be emotional. What would be her first move now that she has the Veilheart behind her? Oh God, she just wants to fight. I don't think she has a plan or a move she wants to make. She just wants to go to Whitestone or where that would be White Wall or wherever the war is, and just throw in with her spears. She understands that there's a long plan here with the Veilhearts in her clan, but part of her is just itching to leave and join in on the cries of war. That's awesome. What is one fact about Brynn that people don't know? On a light level, I don't think there's much about Brynn that hasn't come up at least once. She's full of energy. She loves to dance at festivals. From a very young age, she loved to ride. Her favorite thing is to try and ride almost any and every creature she comes across.
That's such a good character goal.
Perhaps she'll get to ride a wolf eventually.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Let's see. I'll keep going here. I got distracted by my own perversity. What is the story? Oh no, I'm sorry. On a deeper note, I'm sorry. I have to continue with this answer. On a deeper note, I'm not sure that she. On a deeper note, I'm not sure if this has really come across, but Brynn hates her parents. I did not get this. This is interesting.
I never got
she
that.
hates them so much. She might hate them as much or maybe more than the Lunars even. It's hard to say because it's all related. She resents them so much for caring about this war to the point that they're willing to sacrifice themselves for it. Every Lunar she kills comes from that hatred of them. Wow. I'm going to make a note of
Write
that.
Down.
I
didn't
really
get that
am.
at all.
Yeah, I did not, but that's awesome to know.
I'll do the next one for you. What's the story behind Brynn's Mount? What's the story behind Brynn's Mount Ort Vior? They met in the woods on the edge of her family's pastures years ago, and like I was saying before, Brynn just really wants to ride everything. Over the last few years, she's fed him every day and was patient, and they became friends until she could finally get on that saddle on him. I think they were always meant to be together, fate of the gods. By the way, Vior is Norse for storm or wind.
Nice. Yeah. I got this. I'll do it. I'll pick up. I'm done making notes.
Yeah.
I
wanted to give you time to write down some good.
I'll use that. Trust me. What is my favorite NPC? Oh gosh, Erenina is like everyone's favorite, and the obvious answer. Sure. I'm so proud. I'm actually really proud of that. But there's also this. I was so happy when I read this. But there's also the bunny rabbit that I played that I really loved. Christian played a bunny rabbit. I did. There was a little bunny that hopped out and talked to somebody at some point in time. And the centaurs were cool. Also made me happy. What is the inspiration behind my character? I don't really remember how it happened. I knew I wanted to play a herd girl. That made me laugh for some reason. So I was looking at a few of the herd goddesses like Stormbolt and I think Aritha, but they didn't seem quite right. And I wanted to play a rider. And I think Christian told me about Vinga, and that sent me some passages of her story, and it all went from there. I really like to play characters that struggle between duty and responsibility, and I want to be free. And Brynn comes out of that. She feels this duty to fight in a war and sacrifice the way her parents did at all costs, but she also hates it. And I like playing characters that are weighted down by both. I like that. One piece of Glorantha lore that captured your imagination. Admittedly, lore is really hard for me to follow and remember. I like the world is flat and square. Ducks or trolls? Definitely duck. So that's 2 for duck, 2 for troll so far.
Yeah, go Ducks. That's right. Me and Jess are usually on the same page.
What is one thing you missed from the RuneQuest campaign? I really like the sense of community the Haraborn have. I think the NPCs are really cool, and I think Christian has done a really great job of building that feeling of playing characters in a small, close community of really awesome people. I genuinely feel that love Brynn had for her home and for these people, and I like that feeling. What is the relationship between Brynn and Rue planned, or did it happen naturally for the game's direction? We already answered that one. Yeah. And what's one thing you really want to look forward to in Company of the Dragon? I got to figure out how to pull some cool battle stuff with riding or in my spells. Yeah, she definitely does. That'll be awesome if she gets that going. So I think that's everybody. I mean, Rainy, you can answer some RuneQuest questions because you played. Go for it.
Pull some rubes. Where's the let me get I just closed the email. Let me go back to it for
you do it first and then I'll do them because there's stuff for me I think at the end. Isn't there?
This is the RuneQuest ones.
Yeah.
Favorite Haraborn NPC. I don't know. I like it's hard not to like Erenina a lot. I think I also, you know what I loved? What was the character? I can't think of his name right now. The one that's in love with Kent's the bumbling idiot. Wait, like I love
shit, I can't think of
love
his
a
name
good
right
idiot.
now.
I
Yeah.
love and you made him such just a tool. Like you really
Yeah.
like a
And
good
the beautiful thing is he really, Dareston. Thank you,
Dareston.
Gilris. And he like redeemed himself, which I loved too. Like
Yeah.
he totally
He did
redeemed
come around.
himself. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that
But I
sort
do
of
love that. I
arc.
do love that
Yeah.
trope kind of
Yeah.
a nice little side character. Inspiration behind Ven was that I didn't want to play Nerd. I didn't want to play Nerd. Although I did make him like literate. Which, in hindsight probably shouldn't have. But I kind of just wanted to play like a big brooding sad boy. I think that I probably block out that teenage emo phase that I was in for a decade. My emo metal bands. I was in my decade long emo phase. But I really wanted to do that. And I don't typically play characters who just have a big F you sword. And that was kind of a what if I just played the big brute. Um, but he wasn't really a brute.
I think he was very refined in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I was going for. Glorantha lore that captures your imagination and draws you in. Um, I just listened. I just finished book one of the Poppy War, which is a series by R.F. Kuang, and it's interesting. It's violent. It's pretty messed up. But there was like a quote in it that I wrote down in my commonplace book, which is like, the gods are there, the gods are real, the gods are whatever. But they can only really enact change through people. Like they need to convince a person to do their will on the planet, right? But in Glorantha, that is not the case at all. And I love that. It's hard to make a setting like that without feeling like you're just always meaningless in a way. You know what I mean? But Gloranthan lore, I'm typically not a person who wants to onboard a lot of lore. I don't want to do that homework typically. But the more I read it, the more I'm like, this is wild. You know what I mean? Like it is. I love a good pantheon, and oof, I did the Humble Bundle download, and there's like that huge,
there's pantheons.
That huge picture of it, and I just
the God's Wall. Yeah.
Oh, ducks or trolls? Ducks, only because I'm a wildlife biologist, so I don't care what the answer is. I also Suikoden 3 is my favorite Suikoden game, which is a Japanese RPG series, and there's the Duck Clan, and the Duck Clan, and that is very cool, and they're also very warlike, so it fits. And I was just like, love it, want it, do it. Actually, I think we talked about I was gonna make a Duck PC,
and I was just like, I'm sorry, man, it just doesn't fit for this. Yeah.
So let's see. One thing you missed. So unfortunately, I didn't get to play very long. I think I was only in like 3 episodes.
Something like that.
So let's see. I do love the idea of interparty romance. We had an episode about romance and RPGs way back in Modified Roles, and I think that if you do it well, if your players are all communicating about it, it's really great. And this kind of game fits it very well.
I love the passion system for that.
And like I was saying before we started recording, I think, or before we went live, when I was designing my BRP design challenge game, one of the mechanics I wanted to pull from RuneQuest was passions, big time. Like I think that's such a good system. But I didn't manage to get
also, Rainy, when you get a chance, check out Pendragon, because it has a slightly more refined passion system that's pretty interesting. You might like.
Okay. Yeah.
I just forced you to spend more money. I'm sorry, but we do that to each other.
Please.
Yeah.
How about thank you, Christian.
There you go. So there's a question in chat I want to answer. Then I'll answer the Glorantha ones. Unless you done? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So Sharky asks, I made changes from the book when I ran 6 seasons. This is referring to 6 seasons. Sartor. You made changes from the book. Was that a choice because you were streaming, or more of a personal choice? There are several changes I made, and the answer to that would be some of them were based on conversations I had with players. So, for instance, there were some things we changed in the riddle that were strictly based upon, like, preferences of the player. There's some things that I changed just based upon my own personal distaste for things, specifically in the kidnapping of Israela. I don't even necessarily want to get into the possibility of having a sexual assault kind of like on screen. That's just not something I really want to like go for. It's something that I always have. I look at like lines and veils. That's something there's like a veil around. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen in Glorantha. But it's not something that I want to have happen on screen or particularly streaming, because there is also, I think there's when you start streaming, for everyone who might be thinking of it, there is a difference between playing to stream and playing like at your table, because you have to think about the sensibilities and the sensitivity levels of people outside of just the people that you're playing with. So that went into some of the decision making too. Let's see. You
can do your Glorantha questions now as I talk to Doc Void about a relatively obscure JRPG in the chat room.
No worries. So, general question for all. Who is your favorite Harborn NPC you met during 6 seasons of Sartar? So, it's interesting because I'm very proud that everybody said Erenina, because Erenina I just got right away, and I was like, how do I introduce a Babs-Sugor person? She stomps a wife beater's face in at a feast and then goes back to drinking. And, everyone's going to love her right after that because I know the people I play with. So interesting, like Erenina is fun to play, but my favorite Harborn NPC actually was someone who grew on me throughout the series, and that was Gordo. Gordengar, because I literally started him as like generic chief dude, and he grew into like a very complex character towards the end where he had some very, again, I don't want to give spoilers, but he had some really like emotional moments where I was very moved by stuff that he did, and also developed a really nice relationship, I thought, with Rue as the series went on. And so I think Gordo was probably my favorite character to play, with Lonson as a close second, because Lonson's an interesting character to me. What's the inspiration for my characters doesn't apply for me, so I'll skip that one. What is one piece of Glorantha that captured your imagination? So the thing that drew me most into Glorantha was the fact that myth is real. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the easiest way to explain the world to people, where it's like, you know how that myth is that mountain is really like a giant's cow? It is. It's a giant's cow. It's a petrified giant's cow. You know how you say like that mountain span is the spine of a dead dragon? It is. And so that sort of idea of myth, I love the kind of ancient Bronze Age sorts of myths of the Iliad and the Odyssey and all that sorts of storytelling. And Glorantha allows you to tell that story in a way that other games don't. So that's really what draws me in for Glorantha. Ducks or Trolls?
I just want to jump in real quick and say I'm going to pick your brain about this next year. Yeah. I'm already getting into 6 months in the future, but I've planned out my 2025 theme for reading, and it's like classics. So in 2025, I'm going to go back and I'm going to read like the Elder Edda, like
nice.
the Norse saga.
The Poetic Edda is awesome. Yeah.
Yep. I'm going to read.
I can recommend a very good addition to you too if you want.
Yeah, I'm gonna read like I have Sri Upanishad, like Hindu text, and I
want to read that too. Oh, you know what? We should read it at the same time, because I still have Campbell. I bought another Joseph Campbell book, by the way, this week.
Hero with 1,000 Faces.
Yeah, I have that, and I got another one of his. So I want to read that at the same time as you. So we'll talk.
Yeah. So a lot of my plan is to read like some old mythologies and stuff like that. So,
awesome.
I have some Celtic ones too. So like that's my plan, and like I feel like when I start reading these, I'm gonna look back and be like, oh, now I'm ready. I'm ready.
Oh, so is it the Toyne? Are you going to read the Toyne? That's the Irish epic.
Yeah, maybe.
So the funniest thing, so the Toyne is great, but the amazing thing is that like Irish people were so fucking horny. Like it's ridiculous. Like this was like pre-Christian Ireland, and they were like, "Damn!" I'm like, you read this, and they're like, "These are some horny fucking people." Yeah, but anyway. Let me get back to this.
There goes our explicit tag, like doubles.
Yeah, it goes double. Ducks or Trolls? So here's the thing. Ducks were the thing that when I didn't know Glorantha, ducks were the thing that I didn't like the most. right?
Oh yeah, the history Bible.
I was like, that just seems so stupid. And then you learn about the ducks, and the ducks have they're like these scrappy little badass warriors, and they're really cool. Yeah. So for me, ducks and trolls are very, very close. I'll just give a slight edge to trolls because I love the troll culture, and I love when you read the history of Glantha. It's always like, and then this troll army showed up and kicked the shit out of chaos, and like, it's an interesting bit of world building because it's like the monsters that have done the most, like have paid the highest cost for fighting off the chaos in the history of the world. And it's that great kind of quote from Glantha of like, monsters are people too. Trolls are the best example of that in Glantha. So a very slight edge to trolls. I also think Zorak Saran is so fucking cool. So, and there's a goddess of eating. So, the crew is about to return to Glantha. What is one thing you missed from the RuneQuest campaign? I missed the whole thing, man. Makes me happy to see I answered this question. I would just like to add, though, having been like Izrala being the only one that was pre-planned, I talked to Kent about that. It did my black little heart so well to see the other ones that just came to life throughout playing. And also, it's amazing to me how well matched everybody is. What is one thing we really want to work on during Company of the Dragon? I can't really answer that one. All right, so Christian, let's see.
I mean, you could answer it, but it'd be yeah.
I want to break everyone's hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have plans. It's going to be, I will say this for Company of Dragon, it's going to be, I cannot wait because 6 seasons in Sartar is so like insular. You're in a vale, and it's very like, I don't want to say it's on rails. I mean, not super on rails, but it's on rails. And so like Company of Dragon isn't. It becomes a sandbox, and that's what I'm can't wait now because they have players who like know the world now and know the lore, and their characters have a little bit more experience behind them, and they have things that have happened to them that they're mad at, and they can go and seek vengeance for those things if they want, but they can have that opportunity to go out and like affect that world. Yeah, and that's what that's what I want. I can't wait to see what that group does with agency. That's something I'm really looking forward to. So a lot of love and work has gone into your game. Thank you. What are your recommendations for reading to get someone into the mindset to run 6 seasons in Sartar and Company of the Dragon? I mentioned it before. The Bull from the Sea and The King Must Die by Mary Renault. Those are books that I read kind of in the middle of running 6 seasons in Sartar, but they really, really made the Bronze Age mentality come to life for me. And so I would heartily recommend those books, and they're available in like one volume, like you get both of them, and they're pretty easy reads. And yeah, I totally recommend them because we think in very modern terms, and we also think of like, because of our, vast majority of people out in the world out here who are listening to this have grown up in some sort of monotheistic culture, and God is presented as this idea of like something that's like far away, right? And in the Bronze Age culture and in the ancient cultures and things that are ancient unchristianized ancestors believe like your gods were here, your gods were with you, your gods were in the woods. Poseidon owned that horde of horses that were his horses. They weren't yours. He just allowed them to use him. Arnaldo lets you plow the fields because that's her body. Orlanth is the storm. It's not that Orlanth sends the storm. He is the storm. He is the lightning. Storm god. He is the storm. He's the storm. The red moon is the red goddess. She's the moon. It's her body. And so like that mentality, that it's illustrated how it would function in a world and how people who thought that way would act within those stories. So I think those are very worthwhile stories to read to get into that headspace of Bronze Age. What is your favorite NPC in 6 Seasons Sartar roleplay? Man. Either Aranina or Walks in the Dark. The only thing about Walks in the Dark is her voice absolutely kills my throat, but I still love doing her.
Don't you love when you commit to a voice and you're like, oh,
I have to talk like this now. Yeah. If you could be in a RuneQuest game as a player, I would build a shaman all day long. Every day I would play a shaman.
Yeah, I'm so jealous.
Fuck yeah. Yeah. Fuck yeah. Lunar Way book is out. I'm sure you're excited to use it someday. Could elements of the book make its way into the story? Absolutely. Starting day one, there's going to be some stuff from the Lunars, that book in the game. Illumination absolutely will play a part. There have been already illuminated lunar NPCs. Oh, thank you, Sharky loves my Morganeth. I did love Morganeth a lot too. She's really cool. She's very cool. There have been already people have encountered illuminated NPCs, although they did not know that fact. Doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But also sorcery. I'm going to try my best because I'm still not 100% sure I understand it, but we're trying. So there'll be some lunar sorcery happening pretty soon. But as much as I possibly can from the cults books is going to get packed in because there's such great stuff in all those books.
I know those I was like opening and flipping through those first when I started.
God, those books are awesome, man. Yeah, like, they're such awesome books. Yeah. What is one location of Glorantha that you wish you could run a full campaign in? Lunar Empire, Ultosh. So this is an interesting one. The part of Glorantha that really fascinates me that I would explore more if it wasn't like Dragon Pass would be it's not the western area where the Syndic span is, like around the Kingdom of War. I think it's Frenella and like that area. It's on the other side of the cold sea that kind of separates the Lunar Empire from those people. It has a really cool, like sort of Viking-y, but Western Knight sort of vibe that I think is really awesome. And I would like explore there more. I think it's cool. I also think the Syndic span is a really cool idea, which for people who don't know, like Rainey, the Syndic span, these people killed a god. And he was the god of communication, and he was like, "Well, fuck you for doing that." And all these countries went under like a ban, and the countries were like completely cut off. There was this fog, like Ravenloft fog, just like separated everything, and so they were just stuck in there. And now over time, the ban has been lifting for different countries, and you don't know what like popped out. And
that's kind of the premise of Forbidden Lands.
Right. It's pretty much, and it's so like and one of them was the Kingdom of War. So it was like this kingdom, and then like all of a sudden it popped out, and it's like this rabid group of like bloodthirsty berserkers just like swarm out, and they're like attacking everyone else. And so yeah, Kingdom of War. You know what? Raz Fox asked a question earlier that I saw and I meant to answer. She asked about the process of when we got the artwork done by Katrin Durim and what it was like. Katrin's awesome. She was awesome. We reached out to her. She was a really, really cool person. We gave her ideas. She got them right back to us, and it was like an absolute pleasure.
I will say this: the turnaround time on the quality of that art too was insane.
It was amazing, wasn't it? Yeah, it was ridiculous. Insane. Yeah. So Katrin's like super awesome.
I know, and it's so crazy. I did this Humble Bundle, and I'm like downloading it all, and like the amount of art she does for RuneQuest is insane. And you're like, whoa, like this person made cool art for your guys' characters. It's so cool.
It's super cool. I have that. I haven't framed it yet, but I have that picture. I need to frame it. Once I frame it, I'll get a picture up. So those are all the questions for me. Yeah. I think that was it. Yeah. Cool.
I feel like that was a pretty good Q&A, bud.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone has any other ones, does Elden Ring draw in? I don't know. I've never played Elden Ring.
I have a hardcore FromSoft fan in my home group game. I'll have to ask. But I don't know either.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can't play those Souls games. I get too mad because I suck.
Yeah, I suck bad too.
Turn-based JRPGs. I like strategy, but like not dying in 2 hits because I forgot to roll.
Yeah, Amber has witnessed me die many, many times at Valheim and Kent. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? That's all we got.
Well, at one point, I think Raz said, hope there's another one eventually. I think that we should definitely.
This is cool. I think, this is something we can definitely do, intermittently.
Yeah. Amber's running an RPG Souls game now. Well, I've run solo now.
Is it the Dark Souls?
There is a Dark Souls RPG. But I've heard it wasn't great.
I've seen it on the shelves, but I've never even looked at it. Yeah.
I will pitch this real quick. There's a solo designer Spencer Campbell, aka Gila RPGs, and he made these 2 solo games, Reap and Rune, which are Souls-inspired solo games. I've recorded both on my podcast feed. Rune is brutal. Like, if you want that Dark Souls, like, you're gonna die, try again, you're gonna die, try again, you're gonna die, this game is for you. I got my ass handed to me in this game. Like, to the point where, like, the episode ends with me going, well, I just died 8 times. Like, I like edited in, like, let's try this again. Nope. Okay. And then I was like, all right, I'm done. I've died too many times. This is Souls like for me. But Reap,
that's so cool. Doc Void asked, Mutants and Masterminds game on stream, yay and nay. Listen, I'll never say nay. I mean, if people wanted to do it, I'll do it. So, yeah.
Yep. I know. There's only so many weeks in the year we get.
That's the problem. Yeah, that's exactly the problem.
It really is. Like, there's so many games we all want to play. Yeah. One of these days, one of us will hit the lottery, and
we'll just get an island and live there and play games.
Yeah.
Just stream every single day.
Yeah. Can you imagine that? Oh, the dream.
Yeah, the dream, man, the absolute dream. Just servants bringing us food.
We have a room. All the cameras and stuff are set up. We just flick one switch.
Oh, somebody yell at if the audio goes off instead of me. Yeah, right.
Hey, for as much as we tease you for being a lich, you are our tech guru. So
because I just absorbed the mind of a Zoomer and learned how to do this stuff.
There it is. Yeah, that's true, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know TikTok mentions were a thing, but yeah, sure. Sort of those.
Oh God,
we need to get on TikTok. That's what it is. DMs After Dark. Our payday is on the social media we're not on.
I did give away my back pain to Troy.
Oh wow! I brought up Rosso, and he shows up in the chat. What's up, Rosso?
Amazing.
Matt, do you happen to know if Elden Ring draws inspiration from Glorantha and RuneQuest? I don't know. We'll have to answer that question. That's for the next Q&A.
I mean, you would be surprised, like, what does, honestly, because Glorantha has been around a really long time. So, like, most people who are out there designing fantasy worlds are probably familiar in one way, shape, or form. So
they're pulling something. Yeah.
Right.
All right.
That's it. I'll give one. We'll give a going once, going twice sort of thing for questions here.
And
any more? Nope.
So what do we got? We got to do as we. Ooh, Foundry has a good RuneQuest system.
Oh, that's good to know. Hey, welcome too, first time chatter.
Yeah, hello.
So
Christian, we got this is like latter half announcements. We are switching to Saturdays for everybody who missed that in the beginning. Our streams are going from Fridays to Saturdays, still bi-weekly. So our next stream will be the 27th instead of the 26th. And we're going back to Vaesen for one more mystery with Amber running that, correct? And then that's going to run for however many weeks it takes. And then after that, are we going right into Company of the Dragon?
Like, I'm ready.
You're ready.
Yeah, okay. I'm ready. So if we wanted, if everybody's agreeable, I'm fine with that. I'm set to go. I'm set to hit the ground running. I know I tell you, we will hit the ground running. All right. With that one, because everything's going to be in media res. We're going to start.
I love starting in media res.
So we'll be ready, and I'm ready to go, dude. Ready to go.
All right, so there you go.
So probably, and then I think also though something to tell everyone is that when we get back to playing RuneQuest, I do not anticipate seeing just playing it straight through like we did with 6 seasons, because it's a long campaign. So we will probably do breaks with one shots or smaller, shorter scenarios like throughout, because I don't want to run a 5-year RuneQuest campaign. Well, 5-game year RuneQuest campaign. We'll put it that way. Straight through.
In-game.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and that works, right? I mean, like, if there are narrative breaks, like parts where you're like, okay,
there are plenty, and there are at least 3. There are at least like 3 acts, and then there are also plenty of places in between where we could just be like, okay, we're gonna chill out now and like do something else,
We're gonna do a couple months, or like a month of just like 2 weeks in between, and then we'll hop back.
Exactly, right, whatever. One shots are fun. One shots are, I mentioned earlier that sometimes they're stressful because it's like you have to get the whole story on a one game, but they're also like great palate cleansers.
Yes, they are. The leg day of RPGs.
Yep. Don't skip them.
Want to take the outro, or do you want?
Oh, you do it. You got it. I trust you.
Right,
you're the big podcast guy.
Brush off by Sarah. Here goes. Yeah. But, what's funny is even on mine, I pretty much do Sarah. So, All right, ready? Thank you for coming and hanging in our first Q&A session here on the DMs After Dark Twitch stream. You can follow us on all the social medias. Go on any of them. I think we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky. I don't think we're on TikTok yet, but hey, whatever. Find us, search for DMs After Dark. If you want, you can email us at dmsafterdark@gmail.com. We love getting emails from people and talking about games that you're playing or questions you may have about running games or games you'd like to see us play or anything like that. Give us advice. Give us tell us what you like or don't like or whatever. Other than that, what else is there? Some podcast with your salt. Yes. This will be going up at some point on the podcast feed. So
Friday, right?
Probably next Friday. Yep. And you can listen to this there on any podcast app worth its salt. I'm pretty sure on everything. Google Podcast just stopped being a thing, and now it's like a YouTube podcast. I got to go back in and figure out how to get it going there, but hopefully that's easy. And if anybody listens on YouTube podcasts, I'm working on it. And then I think it's just the no apologies. We answered your questions. And I think it's an until next time.
Yeah, until next time.
Think up more questions for us.
Yeah, I absolutely like seriously, just email them. I love answering them, and I know you do too. So and Troy, the Troy and you and I are the most common checkers of the email, but we usually one of us will get back to you. So yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great night, everyone.